Chapter 1920. Lin Feng left the Empyrean Dragon City. The battle with Wu Rai made him understand himself and the path he would take in the future. Joining the human race of the Milky Way wasn't a sudden idea, nor was it influenced by anyone. It was a decision he had made after careful consideration. He was a member of the human race of the Milky Way. He came from Earth, from the Milky Way, and he finally found his companions here. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The last few long-distance teleportations, especially the last few, required verification of one's identity before the teleportation could proceed. Races are different from forces. Forces are relatively loose and are more of a combination of overlords. Shi Dingshan said to Lin Feng, but a race is like a towering tree from the leaves to the roots. Exposing the location of a race will bring great danger. Lin Feng nodded. Forces were recruiting, but races were cultivating themselves. The two models were completely different. Exposing the location of a race was a stupid thing to do. After all, there were too many people in the race who were still growing. Once an enemy with a deep hatred for the race broke in, he might not be able to defeat the patriarch or deputy patriarch, but he could kill a group of ordinary people and seriously shake the foundation of the race. So, they had to be careful. The location of the winged men, Chan monsters, and void dragons was also a mystery. Of course, the Destiny race was an exception. But even so, more than 90% of the elites of the Destiny race were in the core area of the Destiny sector, which was covered by a huge heavenly eye and was extremely vigilant. Compared with the 8 forces, a race's advantage is cohesion and unity. Most races have limited reproductive abilities, such as us, the Void Dragon race, and the Destiny race. Among the 5 great races, only the Tsang Demon race and the Winged Men race are comparable to the 8 great powers in terms of numbers. Generally speaking, the stronger the bloodline, the worse the reproductive ability. Many special creatures have no reproductive ability at all. They are unique. Shi Dingshan explained one by one. Lin Feng listened quietly. Forces had their strengths and weaknesses, and races had their strengths and weaknesses. It was difficult to distinguish between them. Different from the 8 forces, the 5 races were about the same in terms of strength. Although the Void Dragon race was few in number, their bloodline was strong. They had many 7-star and 8-star experts, and 5 9-star experts. Their top-notch combat power was not inferior to the Milky Way's human race. The Winged Men race and the Chan monster race had the largest population. Although their bloodlines were uneven, they had a strong foundation and rich heritage. The probability of them producing experts was not low. Among them, the Winged Men clan's bloodline was slightly better, and the Tsang Demon clan's population was slightly higher. The Winged Men clan had more 9-star experts, 5 of them. The Tsang Demon clan had more 7-star and 8-star experts, 4 9-star experts. The Heaven's Mandate race is the only one. We in the Void Dragon race are on the same level, while the Winged race and the Tsang Demon race are on the same level. Lin Feng said thoughtfully. Shi Dingshan nodded. You can say that. However, our level is about the same as the Winged Men race and the Tsang monster race. Strictly speaking, the Winged Men race is not weaker than us. Lin Feng nodded. It's just that the type is different. Shi Dingshan said, yes, their style is closer to the 8 great forces. Lin Feng more or less understood. The 8 great forces and the 5 great clans. The first level was the Ziwei Star Tower and the Heaven's Mandate race. The second level was the Extreme Fatal Thorn, the Void Dragon race, and the Milky Way human race. The third level was the Winged Men race, the Tsang Demon race, the Arena of the Kings, and the Samsara clan. The fourth level was the Heavenly Tea Pavilion, the Big Dipper Auction House, and the Tsang Dragon Auction House. Overall, the 8 great forces and the 5 great clans were about the same in terms of strength. The 8 great forces were more numerous and had more grassroots members. They were spread throughout the entire Origin Awakening continent and had greater influence. The 5 great clans were more cohesive, and their average combat power was more outstanding. Even the weakest Tsang Demon race was in the middle of the 8 great forces. Do we have any enemy forces? Lin Feng asked. No. Shi Dingshan shook his head. However, relatively speaking, the competition between us and the Void Dragon race is more intense. The Kong Dragon Emperor is ranked 5th on the Origin Awakening list, one place higher than Big Brother. However, it is rumored that Big Brother is stronger. The Dongwon clan leader was ranked 6th on the Origin Awakening list. They belonged to the 5 great clans and had strong bloodlines but fewer clansmen. They belonged to the same type, so the competition was naturally more intense. Brother Sure, according to what you said, only Wu Long is in the top 10 of the Origin Awakening list, and he's ranked 7th. In terms of peak strength, he's far inferior to the Ziwei Star Tower and Thorn. He can't even compare to us and the Void Dragon race. Why is the Destiny clan as famous as the Ziwei Star Tower? Lin Feng didn't understand. In terms of population, the Destiny clan was less than 1% of the Milky Way human race and the Void Dragon race. The Milky Way human race and the Void Dragon race were already very few among the 5 great clans, but the Destiny clan was even more pitiful. In terms of the number of 9-star strong beings, although the Destiny clan had 6, it was only 1 more than the Milky Way human race and the Void Dragon race. In terms of peak strength, the Dongwon clan leader of the Milky Way human race was ranked 6th, and the Void Dragon Emperor of the Void Dragon race was ranked 5th, but Wu Long of the Destiny clan was only ranked 7th. Even if the Destiny clan's bloodline was stronger, strength was more important. No matter how he looked at it, the Destiny clan couldn't be compared to the Ziwei Star Tower. They were even slightly inferior to the Milky Way human race and the Void Dragon race. But their ranking was so high, on par with the Ziwei Star Tower. He didn't understand. Shi Dingshan's eyes flashed, and he said in a deep voice, "This is a clan that has survived since ancient times. They haven't died or weakened for billions of years. It's easier said than done. A race like this must have terrifying trump cards and secrets. They're very high profile, but also very low-key. They stay in the Destiny realm all year round and almost never appear outside. So Wu Arai's appearance in the ultimate Dragon Sky City to assassinate you has already caused a huge shock." Lin Feng smiled bitterly. He didn't want to do that either. Including the Ziwei Star Tower, Thorn, and Extreme Fatal, they all agree that the Destiny clan is terrifying. Shi Dingshan's eyes were deep, and he said in a deep voice, "Before the Milky Way human race rose, the Green Palm clan, which was once as strong as the Void Dragon race, had a shocking battle with the Destiny clan." Lin Feng's heart shook. He knew about this battle. On the surface, the Green Tree race and the Destiny race were equal in strength. In fact, the Green Tree race was even slightly stronger than the Destiny race. But in the end, Shi Dingshan shook his head and sighed. An ancient and powerful race was destroyed by the Destiny race. Uprooted, none of the clan's experts were spared. Rumor has it that the Green Palm clan still has descendants, but they're no longer able to compete with the Destiny clan. Although it's rumored that the Destiny clan has also suffered great losses, no one knows the truth. After all, the Destiny clan has never cared about worldly affairs. Whether they have suffered great losses or not is still a question mark. But according to our analysis, although the Destiny clan has suffered losses, it's not serious. Shi Dingshan's eyes were like torches as he looked at Lin Feng. This ancient clan is not to be trifled with. We speculate that they even have super experts with the same strength as Yin Fagia, who is ranked 1st on the Origin Awakening list. Chapter 1921. Some forces were strong on the surface, but some forces were strong in the dark. The tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. For the Destiny tribe, it might not be a good thing to shine too much because their reproduction ability was greatly limited. Moreover, they had a unique treasure land in the Destiny realm. Not to mention, the Destiny tribe was astonishingly rich. All of this was enough to make people jealous. Although Lin Feng had gained a lot in this trip to the Destiny realm, it was more of a loss of face for the Destiny tribe. A mere treasure could not affect the Destiny tribe's foundation. Their wealth was so great that it made one's hair stand on end. However, this was too far away for Lin Feng. Now, he was only an 8-star expert. Not to mention the Destiny tribe, he was still far from the Beijing Dragon King, who was ranked 70th on the Origin Awakening list. Ahead is the tranquil heart realm. Shi Dingshan pointed ahead. Looking in the direction of Shi Dingshan's finger, there was a large array flashing with golden light. Outside the array, there were 9 experts sitting cross-legged on the ground with their eyes closed and their faces expressionless. There was a stillness in the air. The 18 gold amplification array, 9 inside and 9 outside. The inside and outside are one. It is endless. Shi Dingshan said, there are 9 7-star powerhouses on the outside, enough to withstand the attacks of an 8-star powerhouse. There are even 9 8-star powerhouses on the inside. Even a 9-star powerhouse would be lost inside. Below 9-star experts is a death trap. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. So powerful. In the center of the 18 gold amplification array is the entrance to the tranquil heart realm. This is an independent space, secret realm, comparable to the destiny realm. However, compared to the destiny realm's unique geographical advantage, the tranquil heart realm seems a little ordinary. Of course, the tranquil heart realm still has its special and unique features. It is much better than the cultivation environment outside. Shi Dingshan smiled slightly. In front, Sun had already shown his identity token. The 9 experts all stood up and bowed respectfully. Lin Feng nodded slightly at the 9 experts who were guarding the array and greeted them. Then, he entered the array with Shi Dingshan. Whoosh! In front of his eyes was a gust of wind. Sand and pebbles were flying, and a golden light covered his vision. He heard Shi Dingshan's voice. Follow me. Just keep moving forward. Okay, Brother Shi. Lin Feng replied. The entire 18 gold flow grand formation was illusory and unclear, seeming to be real yet illusory, and it was fascinating. The lustrous and variegated world was like another world that occasionally transformed into a desert, sometimes into a precipice, and sometimes into a starry sky. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The golden light spots flew over in clusters like meteorites, as if they had entered a mysterious starry sky. In the blink of an eye, ferocious beasts opened their bloody mouths and madly bit at him. The smell of blood filled his nose and mouth, making him feel nauseous. Everything was an illusion. Your willpower is not bad. In front of him, Shi Dingshan's clear voice sounded. 8 or 9 out of 10 martial artists who enter for the first time will be affected, but you are indifferent. Lin Feng smiled. To martial artists who were proficient in Heaven's Eye cultivation, such illusions were naturally of no use. Only oneself, only one's heart. The 18 gold flow grand formation hasn't been activated yet, right, Brother Shi? Lin Feng asked. Yes. Shi Dingshan's voice came from the front. This is only the normal state of the 18 gold flow grand formation, and its power is about 1/10,000th of the normal state. But even so, it is still a very powerful grand formation. Yes, Lin Feng agreed. Although the formation was not activated and had no lethality, it could be used to obstruct and confuse. It was already quite good. If he wanted to break through it, he would not be able to break through it in a short period of time. If the 18 gold flow grand formation was fully activated, it would be like what Brother Shi said, and martial artists below 9-star would be doomed. A 10,000-fold illusion. A 10,000-fold maze. In addition, 9 8-star martial artists working as one, combined with the power of the formation. How terrifying would the attack be? If there is a chance, let's try it. Lin Feng said softly. What? In front of him, Shi Dingshan's voice came. Nothing. Lin Feng smiled. How much longer, Brother Shi? Shi Dingshan laughed heartily. We will be there in a while. Follow closely. Okay, Lin Feng replied. Even if someone led the way, entering the 18 gold flow grand formation was a long and winding journey, not to mention breaking through by himself. After all, it was a protective formation of a race, and it was not simple. The Milky Way human race's defense range was very wide, located at the extreme end of the Origin Awakened continent, a mysterious area. To enter here, one had to pass 3 accurate identity authentication and long-distance teleportation. The range was so wide that it included the entire Origin Awakened continent. Of course, The final defense was this 18 gold flow grand formation, which was enough to protect the Milky Way human race. Since its establishment, the Milky Way human race had never lost. This was the root of the Milky Way human races standing in the origin awakened continent. Even if they declined one day, they could recuperate and work hard to cultivate their descendants. With the treasures and cultivation methods left behind by their ancestors, they could return to the top of the origin awakened continent. This was something that many forces could not do. We, the Milky Way human race, have gradually grown to the top power of the origin awakened continent from obscurity to the present, relying on generation after generation to accumulate and improve our strength. Of course, the contribution of the patriarch is undoubtedly the greatest. Sure Dingshan smiled, and his eyes flashed with reverence. Soon, you will see Big Brother. You are the same as him, from the Dongwang Empire and the 100 Saints Martial Temple. Big Brother will be very happy to see you. Here, it's in front. Looking in the direction of Sure Dingshan's finger, Lin Feng's heart fluttered. The illusion in front gradually dimmed, and ripples shuttled through like a landscape, gradually forming a transparent spiral tunnel. Su and the others, who were walking at the front, disappeared one by one. Lin Feng also stepped in with a trace of anxiety and expectation. Whoosh! Light flashed in front of his eyes, and the restraint and pressure on his body suddenly loosened, as if he had broken free from thousands of restraints. His whole body was shocked, and when he opened his eyes, he saw a different scenery. There were beautiful mountains and clear waters, and birds were singing and flowers were fragrant. Looking at it, it was like a rural village, simple but lively and overflowing with spirit chi. Although it was not as prominent as the 3 Forbidden Lands, it was undoubtedly better than other places in the Origin Awakened continent. The whole world seemed very quiet, not only in the environment, but also in people's hearts. Cultivating here seemed to be detached from the mortal world, and it made people's hearts tremble, and they had deep insights. Although the density of heaven and earth spirit chi was slightly lacking, this unique atmosphere was enough to make up for it. Here, it was the most suitable place to comprehend the great path of heaven and earth. This is the origin of the Milky Way human race. Lin Feng's eyes flickered, and he praised in his heart. It felt like he had returned home. Chapter 1922. Blackwheel King. King Dingshan. Exclamations came one after another, and the 7-star and 8-star strongmen outside the array saluted to show their respect. In the 8 major forces and 5 major clans, the 9-star strongmen were usually called kings, because they were all fully deserving of the title of king. There was only one patriarch. Although Sure Dingshan was in charge of most of the clan's affairs, he still didn't have a real name. The deputy patriarch was more of a private title, and the official title was King Dingshan. Sure Dingshan and Suin nodded to the clan members and sped away. Did you see that? A new face. Oh my God, it's a newcomer. How long has it been since a newcomer came to our clan? I don't know. The last newcomer seemed to be when I was born. It's been too long. But this newcomer doesn't look powerful. He's so young. It doesn't matter if he's powerful or not. The point is that he's from the Milky Way. The patriarch will do his best to cultivate him. Even if he's not as good as the elites in our clan now, he'll surpass them in a few eras. Wasn't King Firefly the same? It's so unfair. If I had such treatment, I'm afraid I'd be a 9-star strongman now. Shoo, lower your voice. How can you talk about the patriarch behind his back? The Milky Way human clan had 2 branches. The Milky Way branch was few in number, not even 1,000th of the ancestors' branch. However, the Milky Way branch held the real power in the clan. The patriarch and the deputy patriarch in name were all from the Milky Way. Naturally, the Milky Way branch held the absolute position. Although Dongwang, the patriarch, had tried his best to be fair and there were always some voices in the clan. After all, everyone had a ruler in their heart, and the length was different. It was impossible to meet everyone's expectations. However, in general, the Milky Way human clan was very harmonious and united. After all, the ancestors' branch actually came from the Milky Way. However, the ancestors' branch and the Milky Way branch would secretly compete with each other, such as elite strongmen and nine-star strongmen. The advantages of a healthy competition far outweighed the disadvantages. There was an atmosphere of competition in the clan. The patriarch, Dong Wang, didn't object. Instead, he added fuel to the fire and intensified the competition by fighting for resources. Reality proved that this measure was extremely effective, and it greatly stimulated the improvement of the clan's experts. Sangya, Firefly, and Suan had all stood out in the fierce competition between their clans. Two of them were from the ancestral bloodline, which showed their effectiveness. After all, in terms of numbers, the ancestors' bloodline far surpassed the Milky Way's bloodline. With your strength, Lin Feng, even the elite 8-star experts in the clan wouldn't be able to defeat you. There are a total of 6 9-star experts in our clan. You've already met 6, brother and I. After meeting the patriarch, I'll introduce you to the other 3. Third sister, Mystery, was the first to break through the 9-star level in our ancestors' bloodline. She's in charge of the clan affairs with me. She's magnanimous, steady, and approachable. Fourth brother, Sangya. Everyone in the clan calls him King Sangya, but outside the clan, he is more commonly known as King Song Slaying. Unlike third sister, who made breakthroughs one step at a time, fourth brother improved himself by killing time and time again until he broke through to become a 9-star expert. His killing aura is extremely heavy. Fourth brother's nature isn't bad. It's just that he's more indifferent and not good with words. Fifth sister should hit it off with you. She's from the previous batch of Milky Way humans. We found a total of 5 Milky Way humans in the previous batch. After a long time, 2 of them have fallen. Of the remaining 3, only fifth sister has become a 9-star expert. On the way, Shi Dingshan gave Lin Feng a general introduction of the clan situation. Lin Feng nodded. He had a general understanding of the current situation in the clan, as well as the group of 9-star experts, including the grievances between the Milky Way bloodline and the ancestral bloodline. He didn't care about being compared and competed with. How could such a large race be calm and peaceful? In front of us is the sacred place of our clan, Peaceful Heart Lake. It's a treasure land that every clan member dreams of. Even the patriarch and I are no exception. Shi Dingshan smiled and said, "There must be something special about a world. The uniqueness of Peaceful Heart Lake stems from this." Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Looking into the distance, there was a blue sky. He could vaguely see an incomparably huge lake that was like a canopy. The blue waves sparkled and reflected the colors of the sunlight, giving people a feeling of harmony and tranquility. However, he couldn't see anything special about it. Slowly approaching, Lin Feng stared at the blue lake that was as huge as a world. He gradually felt the unusual energy aura of the lake water, which vaguely made his heart become incomparably tranquil. Suddenly, whoosh, a huge aura descended from the sky. It was an aura that was more powerful than Wu Erga's. It was like a bloodthirsty and peerless ferocious beast, making people shudder. Lin Feng instantly stopped in his tracks and frowned. The aura didn't surge toward him, but was naturally emitted. It was a bare-chested man who was 3 meters tall. The muscles all over his body were like pieces of steel that had been polished for thousands of years. They were indestructible. Even the weakest part of his defense, his neck, was solidified with thick layers of muscles. Even his breathing carried a terrifying, murderous aura. A pair of ferocious beast-like eyes glanced at Lin Feng coldly and emotionlessly. "Fourth brother, have you finished your training?" Shi Dingshan greeted. "Yes." The muscular man silently replied. His gaze shifted from Lin Feng and directly brushed past him. Lin Feng softly said, "Oh." He slightly turned his head and looked at the muscular man's back, gradually moving further and further away. "He is the 4th brother I mentioned to you before, Sangya, a battle maniac," Shi Dingshan said with a smile. Lin Feng nodded. "King Sangya is a saber practitioner," Shi Dingshan softly said. "You've heard of 4th brother's reputation?" "No, it's just a feeling." Lin Feng smiled. It was purely a sixth sense or a kind of resonance between fellow saber practitioners. That kind of saber essence could be vaguely felt. His entire body was like a sharp saber that was unsheathed. Fourth brother's saber art is very strong. If you have anything you don't understand, you can ask him for advice, Dingshan said. I will. Lin Feng was also looking forward to it. His saber art had reached a bottleneck so far. It was only when he was at death's door that he comprehended a little. The further he progressed, the harder it would be. After all, he was only a master of the Black region and had yet to reach the 9-star level. His life level was still not high. Whether it was saber art realm or law comprehension, it was closely related to life level. Take learning, for example. Although there were many supernatural powers, most children's learning ability was not as good as adults. Similarly, the higher one's life level, the easier it was to reach and comprehend. Everyone in the clan can enter the Tranquil Heart Lake to cultivate, including you, Dingshan said. Me? Lin Feng was surprised. Dingshan nodded. Fourth brother just finished cultivating at the Tranquil Heart Lake. Other than the Tranquil Heart Lake, there are many other Tranquil Heart Lakes in the Tranquil Heart world. You will know later. Now, let's go and see eldest brother. His residence is just ahead, not far from the Tranquil Heart Lake. Lin Feng nodded. Chapter 1923. Dongwang Palace was boundless. Looking around, there were swords of different styles, either floating in the air or deeply inserted into the ground. Some were tens of meters high, and some are less than 1 meter high. The entire Dongwang prefecture was like a huge castle. There was a layer of invisible sword chi around it, shining with cold light. The whole area seemed to be connected as one, which was comparable to the 18 gold amplification formation. Is this a treasure? Lin Feng couldn't help but ask. The powerful aura was indeed a treasure. However, a whole palace array type treasure? Dingshan nodded. This is the top treasure that my brother obtained in the last samsara of the void. He named it Dongwang Palace. Because of this Dongwang Palace, although my brother is ranked 6th on the Origin Awakening list, it is rumored that my brother is stronger than Dragon Emperor Jiankong. However, my brother has never fought in this samsara of the void, so his strength has always been a mystery to the outside world. Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. What did that mean? That was to say, with this top treasure, Dongwang Palace's strength was only similar to that of Dragon Emperor Jiankong. At most, he was ranked 5th on the Origin Awakening list. If that was the case, how powerful were the top 4 on the Origin Awakening list? Let's go in. Although sword chi is rampant in Dongwang Palace, as long as my brother doesn't control it, anyone above the 7-star level is not afraid. Dingshan took the lead and stepped in. Lin Feng followed him. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Sword chi condensed around, as if countless swordsmen were practicing swordsmanship at the same time. Although it was not a deliberate attack, the area covered and even the edge of the attack would have sword chi raging. Dingshan was not afraid. His steel-like body could even block the full attack of an 8-star expert. Lin Feng did not care. He did not show the defense of the Mahua boat. He could easily block it with his physical strength. Even if the power of the sword chi hit him directly, it was only a 7-star level attack. Not to mention that the power was less than 10% of a 7-star level attack. After passing through the sword formation, it was the tall and majestic sword palace. Thud! Was strong sword will. As soon as Lin Feng stepped in, his heart shook. The entire palace was suffused with a terrifying sword intent, and it was a level higher than his saber's mastery. There were also many swords in the palace, and they were even denser. Every single one of the swords seemed to have a soul as they buzzed. However, they did not possess any offensive capabilities, nor did they emit any sword chi. In the middle of these 10,000 swords stood a man whose face could not be seen clearly. He looked like a dusty sword. He was dressed in martial attire and held a sword in one hand. His expression was calm. Just by standing there, he gave off a feeling of invincibility. Big brother, Dingshan said and nodded at Lin Feng. Lin Feng greets the patriarch. Lin Feng cupped his fists and bowed slightly. Whoosh! The sword-wielding man raised his head. His face seemed to have been carved by a sword. and his eyes shone with a bright light. They contained endless sword intent as he went straight for Lin Feng. Pong! Lin Feng's heart shook violently. His eyes flickered slightly before returning to normal. Ha! The sword-wielding man let out a loud laugh, carrying a carefree and natural feeling. His pair of eyes that were like sword beams instantly became clear and translucent, and his face that was like ice and frost melted as if it was bathed in a spring breeze. What a strong willpower. Very good. You have 8-star strength at such a young age. Are you from the Milky Way? The sword-wielding man's eyes were full of joy. He could not hide the excitement in his heart, as if he had met an old friend. I am from the 100 Saints Martial Temple of the Dongwang Empire, Lin Feng said. Ah, good. Very good. The sword-wielding man looked straight at Lin Feng. His eyes shone with sword intent, as if he could see through his heart. My original name has been forgotten. After leading the human clan of the Milky Way, I named myself Dongwang to remember my original intention. Since you have joined the human clan of the Milky Way, I will not treat you badly. As he spoke, a magical light flashed and flew straight to Lin Feng. Dongwang's eyes were bright. This is the superior treasure, Brahma. According to the past practice, it will be given to my clansmen when they reach 9-star. However, since you are already an 8-star, other treasures are of little value to you. It is a waste of time. With your aptitude and talent, you have reached 8-star without the clan's training. I believe it is only a matter of time before you reach 9-star. It is not a disgrace to give you the Brahma. Lin Feng held this colorful, transparent treasure and felt the surging space power. He was shocked. He searched all over the Origin Awakened continent, but could not find its superior treasure. Now, he got one as soon as he joined the clan. That was true. The 5 major clans and the 8 major forces firmly controlled more than 99% of the treasures in the entire Origin Awakened continent. It was harder than ascending to heaven to get something out of their hands. However, the forces themselves were obviously made up of many treasures. After all, more than 95% of the treasures came from the turbulent void. Those who could enter the turbulent void and obtain treasures were basically the 5 major clans and the 8 major forces. The other clans and forces had at most an 8-star strongman. However, in the turbulent void, an 8-star strongman was nothing. The dangers of the turbulent void alone might not be able to withstand it, not to mention the game between the major clans and forces. In addition, the quota for the 8-star Tranquil Heart Lake is 30 days every 10 years. Newcomers who have just joined the Milky Way will be given a certain quota according to their strength and potential. However, it is the first time that an 8-star has joined the clan. Dongwang pondered for a moment and smiled. Let's make it 100 days. 100 days? That was just a little more than 3 months? Lin Feng nodded gently. He did not think it was a big deal. At the 7-star and 8-star level, a small seclusion to comprehend was often calculated in years. 3 months was really short. In terms of comprehension, it might be just a momentary thought. However, Shi Dingshan's eyes were already wide open. He was shocked and said, "Big brother, no need to say more." Dongwang raised his hand and interrupted him directly. Then he turned to Lin Feng and said, "The turbulent void is about to open. I will not be in seclusion anymore. If you have any questions during this period of cultivation, you can come to me directly." Wow! Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He really did not care about the quota for the Tranquil Heart Lake. However, Dongwang's words made him excited. That was the instruction of the top strong man in the Origin Awakening continent. A strong man who is stronger than you in all aspects. If you could get his advice, you would not only save a lot of time, but also avoid many detours. Thank you, Patriarch. Lin Feng was overjoyed. First, he would give him an excellent treasure and then teach him for free. No wonder Brother Shi said that the Patriarch was particularly partial to the warriors of the Milky Way. If he joined the 8 major forces, he would be very lucky to get one of the 2 benefits. With this benefit, he believed that before the turbulent void opened, his strength would be greatly improved. Chapter 1924. Coming out of the Dongwang Palace, Lin Feng was so excited that he could not wait to start cultivating. For him, This was definitely a great opportunity. External treasures were not so important to him now, but more of an internal improvement. With the guidance of a super existence ranked 6th on the Source Awakening list, he could clear all the obstacles to his breakthrough in a short time. Straight to the 9 stars. But first, he had to settle down in the peaceful world and find a place to live. There are 108 peaceful ponds in the peaceful world and the only peaceful lake. Shi Dingshan led Lin Feng and walked. In the peaceful world, it is several times easier to comprehend the laws of heaven and earth than in the outside world. If you enter the peaceful ponds, the speed of comprehension will be even more amazing. The peaceful ponds are ranked from 1 to 108. The higher the ranking, the easier it is to integrate with heaven and earth, and the better the effect of comprehension. Of course, even a number 1 peaceful pond is far less effective than the peaceful lake. The peaceful lake is the core of the entire peaceful world, and the 108 peaceful ponds are also nurtured by the peaceful lake. Therefore, the number of people entering the peaceful lake is limited. It is divided equally according to the strength and potential of the clansmen for a period of 10 years. Shi Dingshan introduced them as they walked. Normally, with his status, he didn't need to lower himself to receive his clansmen, nor did he need to accompany them everywhere. It should be known that although Shi Dingshan didn't have a real name, he was the real vice-patriarch and was usually very busy. However, Lin Feng was an exception. As soon as he entered, he was at the 8-star level, which was unique among the human clan of the Milky Way. Previously, the strongest person who received him was only at the 7-star level, and he had just entered the 7-star level. There was a world of difference between the 7-star and the 8-star level. Therefore, Shi Dingshan personally led Lin Feng, which represented his sincerity and importance. Besides the chief, Dong Huang, the strongest person in the Milky Way was Shi Dingshan. So, every 8-star expert is like me, and has a quota of 30 days every 10 years? Lin Feng came to a realization. It seemed like the Tranquil Heart Lake was much more important than he had imagined. Shi Dingshan nodded. In the peaceful lake, if 2 experts comprehend and cultivate at the same time, the effect will be halved. Having one's comprehension and having one's time were 2 different matters. If the time was halved, he might be able to comprehend a little bit. However, if the effect of comprehension was halved, he might not be able to comprehend anything at all. The entire Tranquil Heart Lake was connected into a single line and could only provide for 1 expert to cultivate at a time. Not every 8-star martial artist has the same quota. Ordinary 8-star martial artists only have a quota of 10 days. Most of them have between 10 to 15 days. The highest is 35 days, Shi Dingshan said. Lin Feng nodded. According to Brother Shi, the allotted time was allocated according to one's strength and potential. Currently, the maximum was 35 days. He had a quota of 30 days, which was already quite good. The quota for 7-star experts is usually 3 to 7 days. Below 7-star martial artists, unless their potential is heaven-defying, they will only be able to reach 3 days. Normally, it is very rare to reach 1 day. Shi Dingshan said, below 7-star martial artists, there is actually no need to rely on the Tranquil Heart Lake to comprehend. The best supplementary effect of comprehending the Calming Heart Lake is to break through to the Great Perfection level. Generally, it was rare for 7-star martial artists and below to reach the Great Perfection level. The rest of the time is for us 6, 9-star martial artists. Shi Dingshan said, although comprehending the laws is important to us, it is only a part of the improvement of our strength. Lin Feng was clear in his heart. Generally speaking, when one's laws reached the Great Perfection level, it was a sublimation of life level. It was a qualitative change. However, every 9-star martial artist must have at least 1 great Tao of laws that was already at the Great Perfection level. Therefore, comprehending the laws was much less important to them. After all, even if one comprehended 3, 4, or even 5 laws to the Great Perfection level, it was only a little more life level than comprehending 1 law to the Great Perfection level. It was very difficult to break through to the 9-star level. Bloodline, Great Perfection level, and Space Origin. A martial artist might only need one of these to break through to the 9-star level. However, to break through to the 9-star level, all three were indispensable. In addition, there were also great requirements for the soul and physical body. The Tranquil Heart Lake was the most helpful to 7-star and 8-star martial artists who had not comprehended the laws to the Great Perfection level. However, for a tribe to be strong, it still depended on the top combat power. No matter how many people there were in a tribe, the 6-star and 7-star martial artists were like a tsunami. If they encountered a 9-star martial artist who traveled alone, they would be annihilated directly. Therefore, 9-star martial artists occupied the Tranquil Heart Lake most of the time. It was very fair. Then what is the Tranquil Heart Lake? Lin Feng asked. The Tranquil Heart Lake is actually a simplified version of the Tranquil Heart Lake. One is the mother body, and the other is the child body. The Tranquil Heart Lake is shared, and the Tranquil Heart Lake is private. Shi Dingshan pointed to a huge black palace not far away in the continuous mountain range. That is the number 6 Tranquil Heart Lake. It belongs to the 6th brother, Suin. There are 108 Tranquil Heart Lakes. 80 of them have owners. Each of them occupies an area. The capable people in the tribe occupy them. The other 28 are shared with ordinary tribe members. You can challenge the owner of the Tranquil Heart Lake to obtain the ownership of the Tranquil Heart Lake once every 10 years. Of course, tribe members below 7-star are not qualified to challenge. Lin Feng said, "This is the competition system that the tribe leader advocates." Shi Dingshan said, "That's right. The quota for the Tranquil Heart Lake is limited. Therefore, most of the tribe members cultivate in their own Tranquil Heart Lake. The higher the ranking of the Tranquil Heart Lake, the better its effect." Lin Feng said, "Is there a limit to the challenge?" Shi Dingshan said, "Every 10 Tranquil Heart Lakes form a level. There are a total of 8 levels. Each challenge can only challenge the first level. Lin Feng, this is your first challenge, so you are not limited. However, I suggest that you challenge the middle level first." Lin Feng understood what Shi Dingshan meant. He was not limited in his first challenge, but he could only challenge once every 10 years. There was a limit to the second challenge. If he failed in his first challenge, he would not even be able to get the number 80 Tranquil Heart Lake. In his second challenge, the highest he could challenge was number 71 Tranquil Heart Lake. The tribe had 32 8-star strong men and 6 9-star strong men. In other words, the owners of the Tranquil Heart Lake from number 1 to 38 were all 8-star strong men, or rather, 8-star strong men. His strength was considered top-notch among the 8-star strong men. If he started his challenge from number 71 Tranquil Heart Lake, how long would it take for him to reach the limit of his strength once every 10 years? Therefore, his first challenge was the only one with no restrictions. The choice was crucial. Number 40 Tranquil Heart Lake, the last level of the 4th level. The strength of the owner of the Tranquil Heart Lake is only at the 8-star level. With my strength, challenging number 30 Tranquil Heart Lake is already very safe. Defeating the 8-star strong men at this level should not be a problem. Challenging number 20 Tranquil Heart Lake, there is a certain risk. However, I should have an 80% chance of winning. Lin Feng thought in his heart and quickly made a decision. I will challenge number 30 Tranquil Heart Lake. It is better to be safe for the first time. Otherwise, it will be troublesome if I start from 0. Anyway, I can challenge number 20 Tranquil Heart Lake again. In terms of cultivation, 10 years was actually very short. Chapter 1925. Although he had a clear plan, Lin Feng was not in a hurry. He had just arrived at the clan, so he needed to familiarize himself with the environment. Even if he wanted to challenge someone, it would depend on whether the other party had the time, whether they had been challenged recently, and whether they were qualified for the challenge. The challenge at the Tranquil Heart Pool required an application and approval. There was a series of procedures. This is the armory and the armor garden. Every time your strength reaches a new level, you can come here to pick a corresponding treasure. 7-star can pick a weapon from the armory, and 8-star can pick a set of armor from the armor garden. However, the treasures here are all ordinary treasures, and they are temporarily borrowed. If you have better weapons and armor, you have to return the treasures. However, I believe that these treasures are not good enough for you, Lin Feng. As he spoke, Shi Dingshan laughed heartily. Lin Feng also smiled knowingly. Now, even elite true treasures weren't that attractive to him, let alone ordinary true treasures. Plus, the ones inside were probably inferior among ordinary true treasures. Usually, as long as an 8-star great being was not doing too badly, they would have 2 or 3 true treasures on them. Some of them might even have elite true treasures. The clan only provided the most basic weapons and armor for free, and there were no other treasures. That is the contribution tower. As long as you contribute to the clan and earn contribution points, you can enter in exchange for treasures, Shi Dingshan said. 99% of the clan's treasures are here. Teaching juniors, rescuing clansmen, ranking in the battle arena, discovering treasure lands, and even exchanging for treasures will earn you contribution points. You may find something you need there. Lin Feng's eyes lit up as he looked at the 7-story tower in the distance. The towering tower shone with a golden light. The outer layer of the tower was covered with tiny protrusions like dragon claws. There were unique engravings on the top of the tower, connecting the entire 7-story tower into one. It was like a giant with a golden dragon circling around it. Spectacular and luxurious. Contribution points. Lin Feng remembered. He had many things with him that could be contributed, but he did not know if there were any treasures in the contribution tower that could attract him. However, according to Shi Dingshan, 99% of the clan's treasures were in there, so they must be extraordinary. Whether it was the Heavenly Tea Pavilion or the Azure Dragon Auction House, the items being auctioned were generally ordinary treasures. Only a few of the finale treasures were considered top grade. Normally, the truly top-notch treasures of the 5 major clans would rarely circulate outside. This is the training ground, the place where the younger generation of the clan cultivates. Next to the training ground is the battlefield. Many of our clansmen will practice and compete here. Occasionally, even 7-star experts will appear. That is a place of confinement. All clansmen who have committed crimes will be imprisoned here to reflect on their actions. Shi Dingshan introduced them one by one. The Tranquil Heart world was very big, with the Tranquil Heart Lake as the center. 108 Tranquil Heart ponds were scattered all over the Tranquil Heart world. The closer to the Tranquil Heart Lake, the stronger the energy, the more obvious the effect, and the higher the ranking. Those who lived in the outermost circle were ordinary clansmen. After all, clansmen below 7 stars, including many 7 stars clansmen, were not qualified to stay in the Calming Heart Pool. The inner circle was filled with all kinds of buildings and facilities, including training grounds, battlefields, training grounds, the 33 Goldmen Formation, and so on. They were basically used to train the younger disciples. For 7-star martial artists and above, they were basically of little use. Among them, there were 2 places with the most clansmen. One was the Tranquil Heart Plaza, a place for the clansmen to rest and relax. There were all kinds of entertainment facilities, delicious wine, and even gatherings and celebrations. After all, 99% of the clansmen in a clan were at the bottom. Clansmen like the Destiny clan were all elites, which was very rare. The other was the Tranquil Heart Battle Arena. This was a huge battle arena. A mini 18 gold diffusing formation was built outside the arena. It had no special function, only reducing the impact of the battle. Those below 9 stars were completely immune. 9-star attacks, unless they were specifically targeted, would be greatly weakened and would not damage the formation at all. The Tranquil Heart Battle Arena was different from the battlefield. There was only one condition to enter the battle arena, and that was to be at least 7 stars. In addition, once every 10 years, the ownership of the Tranquil Heart Pool would be held in the Tranquil Heart Battle Arena. This included the selection of the younger generation, the competition for treasures and resources, and so on. Therefore, every day, the Tranquil Heart Battle Arena was filled with people. Some were there to watch the show, but more were there to learn and observe. After all, it was a battle between 7 stars, which was very important to the ordinary clansmen. The experts would compete to obtain a ranking in terms of combat strength, attract the clan's attention, and even obtain contribution points. The weak would observe, gain experience, and find their own path to becoming an expert, killing two birds with one stone. The Tranquil Heart world is a real world. It's quiet, peaceful, and self-sufficient. Lin Feng came from the Tranquil Heart Square and soon arrived at the Tranquil Heart Battle Arena. Compared to the noisy and joyful Tranquil Heart Square, the Tranquil Heart Battle Arena was full of fighting spirit. The clansmen's faces were filled with excitement, and their shouts were like thunder. At this time, two 7-stars experts were fighting fiercely in the battle arena. Real swords and spears. This was not an ordinary battle. The clan leader, Dong Wang, had made a rule. Either they did not enter the battle arena, or they went all out in the battle arena, even if they were seriously injured. The road to becoming an expert is paved with blood. Lin Feng was clear about Dong Wang's intention. Ordinary sparring wouldn't be of much use to 7-star experts. Only a real battle would have a little effect. If it was a life-and-death battle, the effect would be better, but that would cause too much damage to the clan. Sure, Ding Shan left after taking Lin Feng to familiarize himself with the general environment of the Tranquil Heart world. After all, he was the deputy clan leader and had a lot of work to do, especially when he had just returned from the ultimate dragon Sky City. There were many things waiting for him to deal with. Lin Feng did not care. He could have wandered around by himself, but it was hard to refuse Brother Shi's hospitality. They are evenly matched. Victory and defeat are decided in a split second. Lin Feng looked at the two 7-stars experts fighting fiercely in the battle arena. Their veins were exposed, and even their bodies were stained with blood. He nodded in appreciation. No wonder the human clan of the Milky Way could rise in such a short time and enter the top forces. The clan leader, Dong Wang, had fostered the spirit of martial arts for the clan. Not only were the experts in the battle arena trying their best, but the ordinary clansmen outside the battle arena were also shouting with their eyes shining. There were many children who had not grown up yet, and their blood was boiling. Fighting spirits sprouted and grew in the hearts of every clan member. Such a clan, as long as they were united, would become stronger and stronger. It's going to end. He's going to win. Lin Feng looked at the man in blue armor. At this time, he had the upper hand. With a roar, he aimed the 3-section staff at the short-haired young man's face. His moves were sharp and impossible to guard against. The wind whistled, and soon the short-haired young man was knocked to the ground. His eyes were shining brightly, and he was in the mood to fight. The 3-section staff suddenly fell. However, the battle between the 7-stars experts was arbitrated by the 8-stars experts, who would stop it in time. The winner has been decided. A slightly unhappy voice sounded. A man with blue eyebrows appeared in the middle of the battle arena. He blocked the 3-section staff with one hand and waved his other hand to push the man in blue armor away. Chapter 1926. Puff! The man in blue armor spat out a mouthful of blood and fell on the arena. He was badly injured. The outcome has been decided. Why are you still so harsh? In the middle of the arena, the man with green eyebrows was displeased. He glared at the man in blue armor, who was clutching his chest with an ugly expression. Lin Feng frowned slightly. He had seen the battle just now and knew what had happened. Indeed, the outcome of the battle had been decided. The man in the 7 blue battle armor had already won, so it was indeed inappropriate for him to be so heavy-handed. However, before the outcome of the battle was decided, the two of them were locked in a fierce battle. Even if the flame was to be extinguished, it could not be extinguished so easily. The man in blue armor was indeed wrong, but as an arbitrator, he had gone too far by stopping the fight. With his strength, he could have separated the two of them rather than pushing the man in blue armor away. Indeed, as an 8-star expert, he did not hit him too hard. But just now, the man's attack was so fierce. Being pushed by him like this, the backlash was enough to make him suffer. I'm sorry, Mr. Arbitrator. The man in blue armor groaned and gritted his teeth. However, he was injured more severely than the opponent he had defeated. You have won. Have some manners. The man with green eyebrows put his hands behind his back and said coldly, Don't bully others. I didn't, Mr. Arbitrator. The man in blue armor widened his eyes and defended himself. The man with green eyebrows snorted. Don't explain. Don't do it again. As he spoke, his cyan eyebrows furrowed slightly. He didn't even look at the blue-armored man as he leaped back. Brother, what did the arbitrator mean by bully others? Lin Feng asked the clansman next to him curiously. It's the Milky Way clan. They think they are noble and have the clan leader's favor. They don't respect our ancestors. A young man with a flat nose muttered angrily. They won just now, but they still want to kill our clansmen. Humph! They deserve to be taught a lesson by the arbitrator. Our clansmen? Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. He glanced at the clansmen who were watching. They seemed to be satisfied with the arbitrator's lesson. The division of factions within the tribe is more powerful than I expected. Lin Feng sighed in his heart. He originally thought that it was just an ordinary competition, but now it seemed that the competition was quite fierce. The people of the ancestral bloodline didn't even treat the people of the Milky Way bloodline as their own. Rome wasn't built in a day. Lin Feng thought to himself. He did not intend to meddle in other people's business. Since he had just joined the tribe, it was better for him to keep a low profile. Mixed in with the crowd, Lin Feng casually watched the battle of the Seven Stars clansmen, understanding their battle prowess. As he listened to the discussions of the other clansmen, Lin Feng's current level of mental strength allowed him to clearly hear every single sound in the arena. The fastest way to understand a race was to stay at the bottom and listen to the voices of the masses. The battles continued one after another. There were 32 8-star powerhouses in the tribe, and even more 7-star powerhouses, dozens of times more. There were 2 ranking lists beside the arena, 8-star and 7-star. Although it didn't necessarily represent one's true strength, as some powerhouses had fewer battles and some had more battles, it was still quite useful as a reference. On the ranking list, the top 3, top 10, top 30, and top 100 would all be rewarded. It was calculated every year. Compared to the Tranquil Heart Pool, which could only be challenged once every 10 years, it was faster to earn contribution points here. Moreover, the battles could also improve one's strength. Naturally, it attracted a large number of 7-star powerhouses. As for the 8-star powerhouses, they could earn contribution points as arbitrators. After a while, another 8-star powerhouse appeared. He seemed to have a good relationship with the previous arbitrator, and they were whispering to each other. The latter looked a little surprised and asked questions from time to time. Although his voice was soft, Lin Feng heard it all. Brother Sure, you're quite fast. Lin Feng smiled. The 2 8-star powerhouses were talking about him. Although many people had seen him when he was brought into the Tranquil Heart Pool by Brother Sure and Brother Su, the dust had not settled and the announcement had not been made. However, now that he had met the Patriarch, everything was settled. As the Deputy Patriarch, Brother Sure immediately made an announcement and announced that he had joined the race. In addition, due to his special identity and 8-star strength, the quota at the Tranquil Heart Lake had also changed. He is an 8-star powerhouse. Yes, this is troublesome. There is one more competitor. The Patriarch is biased towards the human tribe of the Milky Way. Moreover, this person named Lin Feng has amazing talent. He has cultivated to 8-star without the help of the race. I've asked around. His quota at the Tranquil Heart Lake is 30 days. What impossible! It's true. And the bonus for joining the race is 100 days. Isn't the Patriarch being too biased? My current quota is only 20 days, and a newcomer has 50% more than me. You have 20 days, I only have 15. There are 4 people with more than 30 days quota at the Tranquil Heart Lake. With this Lin Feng, there are 5 8-star powerhouses, and all 4 of them are from the Milky Way. Isn't it infuriating? But there is no other way. After all, it is the Patriarch's order. Even if the Patriarch is biased, he is the soul of the human tribe of the Milky Way. Without him, there would be no us. Stop talking about the Patriarch behind his back. It will be bad if others hear it. Okay? What's wrong? At this time, Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. 2 strange and curious eyes were looking at him. It was not that he was discovered eavesdropping, but the number of people around the spectator ring had decreased, making him more eye-catching. Ah Jiang, have you seen him before? No, never seen him before. Me too. I know most of the younger generation in the race and have taught them before. But this human youth is unfamiliar. Could he be Lin Feng? In the distance, there was a sudden shout. The voice was not loud, but it made the whole arena shake slightly. Some of the noise turned into surprise, and everyone looked at Lin Feng. Hello. Lin Feng was calm and smiled at everyone. His eyes fell on the 8-star powerhouse in the distance, and he nodded politely. Since he had been recognized, there was no need to be shy. Anyway, his identity would be recognized sooner or later. Lin Feng, who is he? I don't know, but look at the arbitrator's expression. This Lin Feng is obviously not an ordinary person. He looks unfamiliar. Is there such a young man in our race? Everyone was curious about Lin Feng's identity. On the other side, the two 8-star powerhouses had already confirmed Lin Feng's identity. One of them couldn't help but laugh. It is normal that you don't know him because the Dingshan King just made an announcement. Let me introduce him to everyone. This extraordinary young man is the one who has just joined the human tribe of the Milky Way, Lin Feng. Come, everyone, give him a warm welcome. Chapter 1927. Clap, clap. The clapping was not uniform. Many of the clansmen had confusion and questions in their eyes. Many of them had yet to react, and many of them were frowning slightly. Lin Feng smiled faintly and naturally didn't mind. From what he saw just now, the ancestors' bloodline did not like the Milky Way bloodline that much. Although the arbitrator did not say where he came from, it was obvious that he was not from the ancestors' bloodline. After all, it could only be the Milky Way bloodline that joined the clan halfway. Brother Lin Feng, since you're here, why don't you come up to the stage and learn from each other? One of the 8-star powerhouses said with a smile. He was the one who called Lin Feng by his name just now. He was wearing a white robe and armor. With a smile on his face, he looked peaceful, but there was a glimmer of light in his eyes. Number 31, Tranquil Heart Pool, Gong, M.O. The other 8-star powerhouse, the arbitrator just now, was the owner of number 20 Tranquil Heart Pool, Tan Xiao Xiao. Their strength could be seen from the ranking of the Tranquil Heart Pool. However, Lin Feng did not know about the Tranquil Heart Pool, but since he knew their names, he knew the ranking of the 8-star powerhouses beside the battle arena. Tan Xiao Xiao, ranked 12th. Gong Mo, ranked 24th. Of course, the ranking of the battle arena could not explain everything. After all, some martial artists had fought many times, and some had fought few times. It could only be used as a reference, but one could get a general idea. Yes, Brother Lin Feng. Let us see how powerful the monstrous genius appointed by the patriarch is. Tan Xiao said and raised his hands. In an instant, the entire battle arena was filled with thunderous roars and shouts. Challenge! 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 The clansmen shouted excitedly. Their fighting spirit exploded, and the atmosphere in the battle arena reached a climax. There were not many 8-star powerhouses to compete, let alone the newcomers from the Milky Way bloodline. Oh, Lin Feng could not help but smile. He never thought that he would be challenged, but listening to the conversation between the two of them, he was able to get some clues. The ancestors' bloodline and the Milky Way bloodline had been fighting for a long time. Moreover, he had just arrived and was valued by the patriarch. Brother Lin, don't go. A soft voice came from beside him. Lin Feng let out a soft "oh." It was the man in blue armor who had just won, but had been secretly injured by the arbiter. You are? Lin Feng asked. Hu Qi. I'm also from the Milky Way. I came for the previous era. The blue-armored man, Hu Qi, said, they want to show you who's boss and trample on our Milky Way's human race. Trample on me? Lin Feng smiled. He doesn't know my strength. Where does his confidence come from? Hu Qi lowered his voice and said, Tranquil Heart Realm has a unique environment and a high comprehension of laws. For martial artists who are proficient in the laws, it is like adding wings to a tiger. They grew up here and have the advantage of location. They can display strength that is 1 to 2 times stronger than outside. Brother Lin, you haven't been here for long, so you're at a disadvantage in this aspect. So, try not to accept their challenges now. If you really want to challenge them, wait a few days. Once you've adapted to the environment of Tranquil Heart World, it won't be too late to challenge them. So that was the case. Lin Feng nodded. Just like how the Destiny boundary had a special fondness for space energy, in Tranquil Heart World, martial artists with high comprehension of laws had a great advantage. Moreover, the easier it was to comprehend laws, the easier it was to erupt and use the laws, and the stronger one's strength would be. No wonder Brother Sher reminded him not to immediately challenge Tranquil Heart Pool. What's wrong, Brother Lin Feng? Don't tell me you don't even dare to accept the challenge? Gong Mo smiled valiantly. Don't worry, the battle arena is absolutely fair. There are no traps. In an instant, there was a burst of laughter around. Although there were a lot of cheers, everyone's eyes were still focused on Lin Feng with a trace of curiosity and battle intent. They were all from the same bloodline and naturally hoped to see a strong martial artist of the same bloodline trample the strong martial artists of the Milky Way under his feet, especially the super genius of the Milky Way galaxy who had just joined. At such a young age, he was already an 8-star strong martial artist. This kind of talent was simply monstrous. Brother Lin, don't be impulsive. Hu Chi's face was serious as he lowered his voice. Brother Lin Feng. Next to Gong Mo, the arbitrator Tan Xiao suddenly spoke with a faint smile. Could it be that you look down on the Milky Way human tribe? Well, after all, you are from the Milky Way and share the same bloodline as the patriarch. Whether it is bloodline or status is not something we can compare to. It's normal to look down on the bloodline of our ancestors. Challenging you with our status is a bit out of our league. Tan Xiao forced a smile and said in a flat tone. His words immediately caused the surroundings to become silent. The people of the Milky Way galaxy pursed their lips tightly and looked solemn, with a trace of indignation and battle intent. In the art of war, attacking the heart was the most important. If it was an ordinary provocation, Lin Feng would not care. He joined the Milky Way clan because of Brother Sher's invitation and his identity as a member of the Milky Way human tribe. He felt a sense of belonging. However, he was still very unfamiliar with the bloodline of his ancestors. However, Tan Xiao's fire was not only burning him, but also the bloodline of the Milky Way. This was not what he wanted. He did not want to cause trouble, but it did not mean that he was afraid of trouble. That day, he had broken through the Destiny realm. Would he be afraid of a few 8-star strong men? Moreover, soon, he would have to choose an opponent for the Tranquil Heart Pool. There was no time like the present. It was not a bad thing to test the strength of the 8-star strong men of the Milky Way human tribe. It could even be said that it was very advantageous. Although it was not a battle for the ownership of the Tranquil Heart Pool, he was now a newcomer, and a newcomer of the Milky Way human tribe. His opponent would definitely go all out and not hold back. Such an opponent could more accurately test the strength of the owner of the Tranquil Heart Pool. Since the two of you are so interested, Lin Feng will be happy to accompany you. An indifferent and carefree voice sounded. Lin Feng smiled and nodded to Hu Chi beside him. With a light leap, he stepped onto the arena. In an instant, there were thunderous shouts and whistles from below. Lin Feng looked indifferent. His gaze swept across Tan Xiao and Gong Mo, and he smiled slightly. I wonder who will go first. Whoosh! Tan Xiao and Gong Mo's expressions changed instantly. The booing stopped abruptly. The crowd was in an uproar. Everyone's eyes widened. They did not expect Lin Feng to be so bold as to directly challenge two 8-star strong men. Who will go first? It was tantamount to declaring that he would challenge two strong men alone. He did not care about the two strong men at all. Gong Mo was fuming with anger. He was an 8-star strongman. When had he ever been humiliated like this? He roared, arrogant. Brother Tan does not need to make a move. I alone am enough to defeat you. Don't be so full of yourself. If you respect me, I will respect you tenfold. Lin Feng was not someone to be trifled with. He looked at Gong Mo with a faint smile. Now that the other party had said such harsh words and his aura was oppressive, did he still have to be polite? He had to fight back. Chapter 1928. Beside the battle arena, the crowd was furious. Lin Feng was not only provoking Tan Xiao and Gong Mo, but also the entire ancestral bloodline. Teach him a lesson, Gong Mo. He doesn't know his place. If we don't teach him a lesson, he'll think he's the king. A newcomer is so arrogant. He doesn't respect our ancestral bloodline at all. This is the tranquil world. He's not allowed to be arrogant here. The roars and shouts were endless. The tribe members were furious. A newcomer who had just joined the clan dared to talk nonsense and be unscrupulous. How could they not be angry? For a long time, they had been suppressed by the Milky Way clan, which made them feel unreconciled. After all, they were the real Milky Way clan. But they also knew that it was clan leader Dong Wang who supported the Milky Way clan. It was also clan leader Dong Huang who nurtured them. Although they were unconvinced, the tribe members respected clan leader Dong Wang from the bottom of their hearts. Without Dong Wang, there would be no Milky Way clan today. What they hoped more was that the ancestral bloodline could produce a super strong person so that they could hold their heads high. But this newcomer had just joined the clan and was already assuming the majesty of the clan. If they didn't teach him a lesson, he would be too arrogant. There's a response. Tan Xiao's eyes lit up. He had a communication crystal, so he could contact the other 5 9-star strong people besides clan leader Dong Wang, including the deputy clan leader Shi Dingshan. There was a rule in the battle arena. The battle between 7-star strong people must be arbitrated by an 8-star strong person. The battle between 8-star strong people must be arbitrated by a 9-star strong person. This was an iron law, and no one could violate it. After all, if 2 8-star strong people killed each other and died together, it would be a huge loss to the clan. There were only 1 or 2 8-star strong people in the 18 top clans. Although 9-star strong people were required to be arbitrators, everyone had a consensus that they wouldn't bother Shi Dingshan in mystery. After all, they were busy with their clan affairs. As for the remaining 3, Lord Kanjia had a cold personality and a strong murderous aura. He was also temperamental. If he was annoyed, he would die without knowing it. Therefore, everyone would usually trouble Firefly King and Blackwell King more. Firefly King, whose real name was Lu Ying, came from the Milky Way bloodline. She was one of the 3 people who had joined the Milky Way human race in the previous era and was still alive. She was ranked 50th on the Origin Awakening list. The Black Wheel King, whose real name was Su In, was a newly ascended 9-star expert of the ancestors' bloodline. He was ranked 54th on the Origin Awakening list and was the weakest 9-star expert of the Milky Way's human race. Which lord has come? Gong Mo asked hastily. Firefly King. Tan Xiao frowned slightly. He hoped that the Blackwell King would be the arbitrator. After all, they were both from the same ancestral line. Firefly King was from the Milky Way lineage, so it was inevitable that she would be biased. In front of true strength, everything else is useless, Gong Mo said to Tan Xiao with a smile. He raised his eyebrows and was extremely confident. In his opinion, such a young lad had never joined any clan before. So what if he had reached the level of an 8-star? Without any supreme treasures or secret techniques, how powerful could he be just by relying on his comprehension of the laws? In the tranquil heart world, there was no lack of law comprehension. Yes, Tan Xiao nodded vigorously, his eyes shining brightly. Standing on the tranquil heart arena, Lin Feng was like a willow tree in the wind, clear and confident. When he closed his eyes, he could clearly feel the fluctuation of the law elements, especially the light element and the dark element. They were like wisps of smoke in the sky. Not only could he see them, but he could even touch them. However, relatively speaking, the light element was much stronger than the dark element. I'm 1 stage away. Lin Feng was clear. Bloodline, no level could be lacking. His light god pattern was at the 3rd stage, which was comparable to the powerful bloodline of the Origin Awakening Continent's 9-star experts. However, his dark god pattern was only at the 2nd stage, which was comparable to the weaker bloodline of the 9-star experts. As for the Black Whirlpool, although it was at the 3rd stage, it was very special. Rather than calling a bloodline, it was more of an enhancer, a balancing method, or a supreme treasure of the body. Its greatest use was not to increase one's comprehension of space, but to balance the light God pattern and dark God pattern. Bloodline. Lin Feng was secretly shocked. Breaking through could be said to be simple, but could also be said to be difficult. To him, the improvement of the dark God pattern was imperative. If it could be improved to the third stage like the light God pattern, then his bloodline would be perfect and he would be able to unleash far greater combat strength. After all, the combination of light and darkness required equal energy. Currently, the light God pattern could only unleash the power of the second stage. It was far from enough. As for whether the black whirlpool could balance the light God pattern and dark God pattern, it was not something he needed to consider now. First, find a way to improve the dark God pattern. Second, fight for the Tranquil Heart Lake, cultivate in the Tranquil Heart Lake, and improve one of the laws to perfection. Obtaining one of the two would be enough. The possibility of becoming a 9-star expert was more than 80%. Before entering the chaotic void, he had to improve his combat strength as quickly as possible. Although he could temporarily rely on the clan's wings, no one knew what would happen in the chaotic void. Only when he had the strength could he truly control it. It's here. Although Lin Feng was meditating and accumulating his strength, nothing around him could escape his senses. Even the words of the clansman entered his ears clearly. The aura of a 9-star expert suddenly descended. It was a youthful and beautiful figure. She was wearing a neon green battle armor. The battle armor was dotted with white and transparent spots, like fireflies glowing. She was only 6 meters tall and petite. Her face was palm-sized, and her facial features were beautiful, as if they were carved needle by needle. She was filled with a strange magic, especially her pair of crystal yellow eyes, which were like shining yellow crystals. Greetings, Queen Firefly. All the clansmen, including Tan Xiao and Gong Mo, bowed respectfully. Although they were not convinced that they were suppressed by the Milky Way, they were still very respectful to the 9-star experts in the clan. Without them, the human clan would not have the glorious status it had now. Queen Firefly nodded slightly, her yellow eyes looking at Lin Feng with a smile. Lin Feng also smiled and nodded politely. Just like Brother Shi, Queen Firefly gave him a warm feeling as if she was a family member, but he could not feel this from Suen. Although they were from the same clan, there was always a gap between them. Are you ready? Queen Firefly opened her mouth, and her voice lingered in the air. There were no unnecessary greetings or questions. She was here as an arbitrator to preside over the duel. Yes. Gong Mo was wearing an armor and a white robe. The smile on his face had turned into a fierce battle intent. Yes. Lin Feng's eyes were also bright. Chapter 1929. It was silent. The surrounding clansmen held their breaths and focused their gazes. An 8-star battle was one level higher than a 7-star battle. Even in the Ningxin battle ring, it was rare to see such a battle. A battle of this level was not only useful for ordinary clansmen, but also for 7-star experts. Let's begin. Queen Firefly opened her red lips and breathed out. The battle was like a firework, instantly erupting. Gong Mo shouted. The long spear in his hand was as heavy as a mountain. It spun rapidly and pierced through the air. His spear art realm was not high. It was only at the standard entering the marrow realm of 8-star experts. His spear art was not very exquisite. However, the spear art was condensed with the vigorous law of earth. It had an oppressive force, and all kinds of earth Tao were tightly combined. Rumble, wherever the long spear passed, the entire ground would tremble violently. Soil and rocks flew everywhere, covering the entire area. The tip of the spear flashed with light, and all the power of the attack was concentrated on one point. The attack seemed to be scattered in all directions. However, this was only the fluctuation of the law. It created a great power. Gong Mo knew his own strengths and weaknesses. He knew how to maximize the power of his spear art. Swish! Lin Feng leaped back. Light flashed on both his hands. A blood-red color gathered in the air like a ferocious tiger. It went straight for the center of Gong Mo's spear art. Elite true treasure, Skeleton Demon. Now, Lin Feng's controlling attack, not counting the additional effect of the barbaric blood, already had the power of an 8-star pinnacle. With the additional effect of Tian Ho's barbaric blood, it could reach 9 stars. Although the power of Gong Mo's spear was concentrated on the tip of the spear, it was only at the 8-star level. Even if the spear art's attack reached the pinnacle, it would only be an 8-star pinnacle. Moreover, it was too difficult to reach the pinnacle. Gong Mo's realm was not high enough. The strength of his spear art was more due to the law of earth, deterrence, vibration, suppression, and so on. Once they entered the domain of his spear art, he could unleash the full power of the law of earth. But now, bang! Skeleton directly swallowed Gong Mo's spear art and shattered it. The blood-red tiger head in the air instantly turned into a pile of bones. The power of the attack was enough to make Gong Mo pale with fright. What? Gong Mo's expression changed greatly. The web between his thumb and index finger that was holding the spear instantly exploded. His arm trembled violently, and his chest felt as if it was struck by lightning. He almost lost his grip on the spear. How can his attack be so strong? Gong Mo's heart trembled. The terrifying impact had completely stopped his attack. Under such circumstances, no matter how strong the Tao of Laws was, it was useless. Gong Mo abruptly retreated, using the inertia to offset the impact. Otherwise, he would have been seriously injured by this move. Gong Mo clenched his teeth, his eyes filled with shock. At this moment, whoosh! In the distance, a streak of white light strangely arrived. Its entire body was pure white. Compared to the skeletons, it was much smaller. However, it was more agile and had greater control over its movements. Its speed was also much faster. The white light flashed like lightning. Gong Mo had no time to block it. Boom! The white light directly shattered Gong Mo's battle armor. Puff! Gong Mo's eyes widened as he spat out a mouthful of blood. His mind was in a daze. He didn't know what had happened at all. He only felt a sharp pain in his heart and fell heavily to the ground, unconscious. Old Mo, Tan Xiao was shocked, and his expression changed drastically. Whoosh! Like a bolt of lightning, he leaped onto the battle arena. Tan Xiao hastily helped the unconscious Gong Mo up. Their countless epics of friendship was not fake. His anxious and worried expression was written all over his face. Lin Feng wins. Firefly King was still calm and composed, as if nothing had happened. Her gaze landed on Tan Xiao as she said, "He is fine. Only his battle armor was slightly shattered. It is just a superficial wound. He will recover after resting for a month." To martial artists, a month was a very short time. One closed-door cultivation could take decades or even centuries. After all, the battle arena was not an ordinary spar. There would naturally be injuries. He lost. He lost just like that. It can't be. What happened just now? I don't know either. I only saw a streak of white light flash. Lord Gong Mo groaned miserably and fell onto the battle arena. It seems to be a controlling type artifact, and there are 2 of them. You didn't see it just now. The first blood light was like that. The second white light was even more unexpected. Lord Gong Mo didn't pay attention for a moment and suffered a great loss. Isn't this too much of a trick? All the clansmen were in a heated discussion. Although most of them were only 5-star or 6-star, there was no lack of 7-star powerhouses. They often watched the battle arena and had rich combat experience. Naturally, they saw the whole process clearly. There is no trick in a battle. There is only winning and losing. Even if it is luck, it is also part of one's strength. Firefly King spoke clearly. 2 crescent moon-like slender eyelashes fluttered gently. Her crystal yellow eyes swept across the clansmen. In an instant, the original discussion came to an abrupt end. As a 9-star powerhouse and a top powerhouse of the Milky Way clan, Firefly King had considerable prestige in the clan. That's right, there's only winning and losing in a battle. Tan Xiao gritted his teeth and gently placed Gong Mo on the ground. He stood up with a red face. There was a strong fighting spirit in his eyes as he pointed at Lin Feng. Lin Feng, I, Tan Xiao challenge you. Tan Xiao was not convinced. He was very unhappy. In his opinion, Firefly King was biased towards Lin Feng. He saw clearly how the battle went. Lin Feng did have some tricks and relied more on the power of elite true treasures. With Gong Mo's strength, even if he lost, he should not have lost so badly. He was very clear about Gong Mo's spear technique. His strongest point was close combat. He could unleash his Earth Dao to the fullest. It was a pity my speed is faster and my movement technique is more agile. Moreover, my defense is much stronger than Gong Mo's. He is good at long-range attacks. He will not be too strong in close combat. Tan Xiao stared at Lin Feng. A red and white sword lit up in his hand. There were various secret patterns engraved on it. He could not let his ancestors' bloodline be trampled on again. And this time, it was done by a newcomer. How could he endure this? Lin Feng, do you dare to accept this? Tan Xiao's fighting spirit was radiating. The surrounding clansmen focused their attention and whispered. In terms of strength, Gong Mo was at the bottom of the 8-star powerhouses. Tan Xiao, on the other hand, was above average. One was number 31, Tranquil Heart Lake. The other was number 20, Tranquil Heart Lake. It was obvious who was better. Firefly King's beautiful eyes also looked at Lin Feng. There was a hint of curiosity in her eyes, and the corners of her lips moved slightly. She also wanted to know how powerful this newcomer, who was valued by the clan leader, was. He has just arrived, and he is already an 8-star. Firefly King's eyes flickered. Everyone focused their attention. Lin Feng did not show any nervousness or restraint. Instead, he smiled calmly. Brother Tan, you seem to have a bad memory. Lin Feng smiled faintly. Didn't I say just now? Who will go first? Since Brother Gong came first, the next one, of course it's you. Chapter 1930. Number 20, Calming Heart Pond. For Lin Feng, this was an excellent touchstone. Every 10 Calming Heart Ponds was a level, a threshold to challenge. After all, he could only attempt to cross one level every 10 years. The first choice was naturally important. If he chose the right Calming Heart Pond, which was within the limits of the challenge, he would be able to maximize his cultivation efficiency for the next 10 years. But if he chose the wrong one, it would be troublesome for a newcomer. Therefore, Lin Feng had only planned to challenge number 30 Calming Heart Pond, and not number 20 Calming Heart Pond, which was within the limits of his strength. The most important thing for the first challenge was to be safe and steady. Even if he had more than 95% confidence in a number 20 Calming Heart Pond. If he lost, he would have to start from a number 80 Calming Heart Pond, which was a level once every 10 years. The price was too high, but now it was a good opportunity to test his strength. Gong Mo lost first. Now, all the pressure is on Tan Xiao. Plus, with my provocation, he will definitely do his best. Lin Feng naturally had his wishful thinking, but his face was still as calm as an ancient well. He only looked at Tan Xiao indifferently. This kind of contempt caused Tan Xiao to be even more furious. Very good. Tan Xiao's eyes were sharp and cold. The veins on his right hand, which was holding the red and white sword, were bulging. He was really angry. So, you accept my challenge? Lin Feng nodded. It didn't matter who issued the challenge first. Since Tan Xiao insisted that he issued the challenge, it was up to him. Do you need a rest? Firefly Monarch's yellow eyes glanced at Lin Feng. Her clear voice had a hint of undetectable warmth. No need, Lin Feng said with a smile. Okay. Firefly Monarch nodded and glanced at Tan Xiao. Are you ready? Yes. Tan Xiao's body was full of fighting spirit. The red and white sword condensed mysterious runes, which contained the Tao of Light and Tao of Light. It was a top-grade elite treasure weapon. It was only slightly inferior to Lin Feng's Eclipse Mystic Knife. However, the Eclipse Mystic Civ Saber had only activated 2 layers of the secret technique, and its power was less than 30%. On the other hand, Tan Xiao's red tasseled sword had already activated the complete secret technique. In terms of power, it was above the Eclipse Mystic Civ Saber. All the clansmen held their breaths, their eyes filled with anticipation and nervousness. This was not an ordinary battle. Instead, it was a secret war between their ancestors and the Milky Way. They also wanted to become as strong as the Milky Way. He would never admit defeat. Begin, Firefly King's voice vibrated, directly entering Lin Feng and Tan Xiaoxiao's ears like the ringing of a bell. Tan Xiaoxiao, who was well-versed in the rules of the arena, had already made all his preparations. Almost at the beginning of the battle, he had already unleashed his absolute fighting strength. The red and white light condensed into a circle of light, and like the ripples of the laws, it suddenly spread out. Perfect Tao of halos. Lin Feng instantly felt the pressure. The 6 paths of light each had their own strengths. For example, the path of light had a divine power that was extremely effective against darkness. For example, the path of light could reach the speed of light, and its movement techniques could be said to be the pinnacle. The path of halos was good at assisting, especially when combined with a domain true treasure. It was like adding wings to a tiger. The secret engravings on the sword had a domain restriction, which was enough to be comparable to an elite domain true treasure, and it was perfectly integrated with the attack, as if it was an inseparable whole. The moment Tan Xiaoxiao made his move, Lin Feng felt the pressure. It was different from the pressure from the previous battle. Ranked 20th in the Tranquil Heart Pool. Lin Feng's lips curved slightly. Under everyone's gaze, he didn't make a move. Instead, he took out his saber, Eclipse Mystic Saber. At the same time, the divine engravings of light also shone. The 3rd stage. What? All the clansmen were stunned. Isn't he good at the Path of Soul? Yeah, I saw that he defeated Gong Mo with a control-type true treasure. Why is he doing this now? All the clansmen widened their eyes, and they were confused. The stronger one was, the more extreme one would be. One had a strong soul and was good at the Path of Soul, such as long-distance attacks or illusions. The other had a close combat style, such as head-on attacks or flexible guerrilla tactics, which were both considered close combat styles. It was rare to see someone like Lin Feng who was good at both. Even if there were, it would be one side that was extremely strong, while the other side was only good for assisting in cultivation. You're quite flexible. Tan Xiaoxiao's eyes were cold. His mental fortitude in battle was excellent, and he wasn't affected by Lin Feng's changes at all. In his opinion, Lin Feng had no choice but to be flexible. In his red tassel domain, the power of his sword techniques was multiplied, and the domain's range was enough to suppress external attacks. If Lin Feng used a long-distance attack again, it would fall into his red tassel domain, and its power would be weakened. On the other hand, his domain was closely integrated with his sword techniques, and its power would be multiplied by a lot. Most importantly, in the red tassel domain, even the slightest change couldn't escape the domain's restrictions. It was impossible to rely on a surprise attack like when he defeated Gong Mo. The only weakness of the red tassel domain was that it forcefully reduced the speed. Once the speed increased, the domain itself would become unstable. Moreover, the sword techniques and the domain were integrated into one. If the sword technique was broken, the domain itself would also be damaged. They were bound together. However, against opponents who were good at controlling objects, the red tassel domain was definitely a killer move. It might not be able to defeat the opponent. After all, the opponent might be faster. But at the very least, it would be invincible. In order to break his domain, one would first have to enter his domain. He's good at controlling objects and close combat. That's rare. Firefly King floated in the air, quietly watching the battle. She also wanted to know how strong Lin Feng was. She had actually just met Brother Shi and learned about Lin Feng's identity. After chatting for a while, she received an arbitrator's mission. What you hear may be false, but seeing is believing. So, she came. She came to see for herself how strong Lin Feng, the newcomer of the Milky Way, was, because soon she would have a lot of interactions and connections with Lin Feng. Shua, Qi. The Eclipse Mystic Saber's 2 mystic runes were activated. Lin Feng's light runes bloomed to the extreme, completely suppressing the darkness runes. In a spar, he didn't need to use the demonic Saber to absorb blood to increase his combat strength. After all, his darkness runes were only at the second stage. For light and darkness to combine, he first had to greatly strengthen the darkness runes and then weaken the light runes. Only when the power was balanced could he combine them into one. Although it was indeed stronger than using the Eclipse Mystic Saber alone, the explosive power of the demonic Saber was too damaging. He might as well use the light runes to the extreme. Moreover, he could already use the second move of the 10,000 obscuring heavenly saber. A sufficiently powerful saber move could offset the enhancement in other aspects. Finally, I'll leave some trump cards. Lin Feng didn't want to reveal all his trump cards right after joining the family. That's enough to deal with him. With a smile, Lin Feng's battle intent wasn't inferior to Tan Xiaoxiao's. Wherever the Eclipse Mystic Saber went, it broke through the red tassel domain's light. Like a god of war, he charged in. Chapter 1931. Very good. Tan Xiaoxiao sneered unnoticeably. He was not afraid that Lin Feng would fight him in close combat, but he was afraid that Lin Feng would avoid the fight. If Lin Feng hid far away and fought with a controlling treasure, he would be in trouble. After all, the red embellishment domain and speed conflicted. But now, that was exactly what he wanted. Many clansmen who knew him smiled. They knew how powerful Tan Xiaoxiao's red embellishment domain and close combat ability were. He was definitely at the peak of 8-star level. No matter how powerful and confident a newcomer was, how could he fight with his weakness and Tan Xiaoxiao's advantage? Wasn't that courting death? In the beginning, the tribesmen, including Tan Xiaoxiao, had assumed that Lin Feng walked the path of the soul and was good at controlling objects to attack. After all, Lin Feng had defeated Gong Mo without shedding a drop of blood, which showed his strength. He was very powerful. However, even a 9-star powerhouse who walked the soul, Dao, might not be as good as an 8-star powerhouse in close combat. Not to mention that Lin Feng was only at 8-star level. Whoosh! Lin Feng's blade instantly tore apart the red embellishment domain. It was fine if he did not make a move, but the moment he did, everyone's expression changed, including Gong Mo, who had just been defeated by Lin Feng. His eyes widened in horror. Saber's omniscient mastery. Omniscient mastery. Impossible. All the clansmen who knew what was good for them were stunned and gasped. Tan Xiaoxiao was one of them. As the controller of the red embellishment domain, he felt the domineering blade force more than anyone else. The relaxed expression on his face was replaced by a serious one. He was wrong, very wrong. The human youth in front of him was not only powerful in the Soul Dao, but his close combat ability was also terrifying. That was omniscient mastery, a 9-star power realm. There were 8-star powerhouses who had omniscient mastery, but there were not many of them. There were only 2 of them in the entire Milky Way. However, Tan Xiaoxiao was not one of them. Although his swordsmanship realm was higher than Gong Mo's and had reached the peak of Heaven Dao Marrow and even exceeded 100%, he had not crossed the bottleneck. Fortunately, although his cultivation level is higher than mine, it's not by much. Naturally, Tan Xiaoxiao would not admit defeat so easily. He knew his opponent's strength the moment they exchanged blows. Although the newcomer in front of him had reached the realm of Saber's almighty proficiency, he had only just stepped into it. His Tao of Laws is far inferior to mine. Using one's strength to attack the enemy's weakness, Tan Xiaoxiao was worthy of being the owner of Calming Heart Pool number 20. His battle mind was very clear. He blocked and dodged, perfectly using the red embellishment domain's defense. He was not in a hurry to fight Lin Feng head-on. Instead, he chose to tangle with him. Chi! Within the red embellishment domain, sword beams shot out one after another, intertwining with each other like threads. Every attack brought along fluctuations of light, ingeniously displaying the geographical advantage of the red embellishment domain. The light was sometimes long, sometimes short, sometimes thick, sometimes thin. His control over his power was exquisite. At the same time, the red embellishment domain displayed red halos mixed with white halos, amplifying the power of the light rays and weakening Lin Feng's speed and strength. Halos, Tao of Light, two perfected realms. Lin Feng was inwardly shocked. He had sparred with many 8-star experts, but none of them had two perfected nomological great Daos. In terms of combat power, there was a huge difference. If two perfected nomological great Daos could be used together, it would be quite powerful. Furthermore, for ordinary martial artists with two perfected nomological great Daos, as long as their comprehension of the space Dao and bloodline could keep up, they would already be at the 9-star level. It seems like what he lacks is bloodline. Lin Feng was clear. This was the case for 95% of martial artists. For ordinary martial artists with perfected nomological great Daos, their comprehension of space would not be too bad. However, their bloodline was destined from birth, and it was very difficult to change it. Unless they had a special heaven and earth fruit to stimulate their bloodline, this was the biggest cage to break through. There are too many attacks, but they're not real. Many thoughts flashed through Lin Feng's mind. While nimbly dodging the attacks, he counterattacked from time to time. It seemed like he was being attacked from all sides. Threads of light wrapped around his body, but in reality, Lin Feng was not injured. This was not only because his movement technique was nimble, but also because the surface of his body flashed with black light from time to time, vaguely showing the shape of a black demon boat. It was an outstanding true treasure, Mo Xian boat. Although it had not reached the perfect defense, the Mo Xian boat's defense was still stronger than the best elite true treasure. Tan Xiaoxiao's full power attack might be able to injure Lin Feng, but if it was just a probing attack, all the attack power would be absorbed by the Mo Xian boat. It would not be able to cause any damage. Moreover, Lin Feng would not foolishly stand in place and let Tan Xiaoxiao attack him. His strength is in control and defense. Lin Feng quickly determined that Tan Xiaoxiao's lack of bloodline meant that his attack power was not shocking. It was only at the standard of an ordinary 8-star. Tan Xiaoxiao was proficient in the nomological Dao. The Dao of Light's attacks were not strong. Although the Dao of Light was strong, Tan Xiaoxiao could not fully utilize it. His only elite true treasure, the secret runes, was based on the Dao of Light and the Dao of Light. Moreover, his sword technique realm was only at the bone marrow realm. If I did not have the outstanding true treasure, Mo Xian boat, I might be in some trouble. But now, Lin Feng's eyes lit up instantly. The Eclipse mystic knife and the divine runes of light reflected each other. Astonishing light elements gathered, and with a sudden roar, a shocking combat power burst forth. 10,000 obscuring heavenly knife, ashes. The knife completely ignored Tan Xiaoxiao's attack. It was like a peerless, ferocious beast baring its fangs and roaring angrily. Boom! Lin Feng's attack moved wildly in all directions. It was like a dusty mountain exploding. What a terrifying attack power. Tan Xiaoxiao blocked and retreated. His expression changed instantly, revealing a look of fear. However, he snorted coldly. It's useless. The knife moves are scattered, and the power is not concentrated. If I don't get close, even if I concentrate all my power on one point, you can't attack me. Tan Xiaoxiao had absolute confidence in the red embellishment domain. His nomological Dao, combined with his domain, was invincible. Even if he could not defeat his opponent, he could at least be in an undefeatable position. He would exhaust his opponent to death. In the tribe, his 8-star strength could only be considered above average, but he had the number 20 calming heart pond. However, in an instant, Tan Xiaoxiao's expression changed drastically. On the ground, the red and white region cracked as if it had collapsed in an instant. The center of the power was completely destroyed and could no longer gather. Pieces of the region split apart, and even the secret runes were shattered. The brilliance of the runes dissipated. Whoosh, whoosh. Streaks of light elements spread out uncontrollably. Tan Xiaoxiao wanted to repair it, but it was too late. Boom! Another terrifying knife force appeared. This time, the destructive power was even more unrestrained. Rumble, the red embellishment domain, which was already shattered, was destroyed directly like a skyscraper collapsing. Tan Xiao Xiao, who was originally standing on the rooftop in an undefeatable position, was now naked in front of Lin Feng. He looked panicked. No, Tan Xiao Xiao's back was ice cold. At this moment, he had completely reacted. Lin Feng's target was not him at all. It was the red embellishment domain. Chapter 1932. The first attack seemed scattered, but was actually scattered to every corner of the red embellishment domain. Although it was small, it shattered the red embellishment domain bit by bit. It was not difficult to mend a large hole in the middle of a piece of clothing, but it was too difficult to mend thousands of small holes. Lin Feng's attack was like that. He could focus his attack to shatter the red embellishment domain's restriction on him, but it was useless. Tan Xiao Xiao could use a bit of energy to make up for it. It was too easy for him to absorb and use the light element here. But it was different when the attack was scattered. Even if Tan Xiao Xiao knew about it, he could not repair it. The first attack shattered, the second attack broke. The third attack was aimed at Tan Xiao Xiao. Let's end this. Lin Feng's saber aura was unparalleled, and its might spread out in all directions. The strength of his realm directly crushed Tan Xiao Xiao. Although Tan Xiao Xiao's path of law was stronger, he did not have the combination of elite true treasures and the support of powerful secret techniques. Just nomological Dao comprehension was like an armchair strategist. It was not very useful. It was better for a general to charge and break through the enemy's defenses with brute force. It was straightforward. Boom, boom, boom. Tan Xiao Xiao tried to block the attacks, but Lin Feng's attacks were like a hurricane. There was no space for him to escape. Behind him, the mini golden amplification grand formation around him started to emit spatial patterns that rippled like water. This was an array that was immune to attacks below the 9-star level. But under Lin Feng's attack, it was like throwing small stones into a lake. There were ripples. One had to know that Lin Feng was not directly attacking the mini 18 gold amplification array. He was just affecting it. What a powerful attack. It has reached the 9-star level. Queen Firefly's beautiful eyes flashed with joy. Tan Xiao Xiao has lost. Although the outcome was not clear, Queen Firefly could see with a glance that Tan Xiao Xiao was just an arrow at the end of its flight and was stubbornly resisting. Under Lin Feng's barrage of attacks, he could not do anything at all. Defend, he could not defend. Attack, he could not defeat Lin Feng. His only strong point, the red embellishment domain, had been broken. Tan Xiao Xiao no longer had anything to rely on. If he can comprehend the Tao of radiance to perfection, he might have a chance. This way, the power of the red embellishment domain can be raised to another level. With the help of 2 great perfection laws, it can unleash the power of a domain comparable to an excellent true treasure. Even if Lin Feng want to break it, it would take a lot of effort. Furthermore, the 2 great Tao laws complement each other. The attack power of his weakest link can be increased by at least 2 levels. What a pity. Firefly King shook her head. She naturally wouldn't tell Tan Xiao Xiao in detail. A true expert needed to rely on himself to understand and comprehend, and not rely on others to give him pointers. Moreover, she wasn't Tan Xiao Xiao's teacher, so there was no need for her to overstep her boundaries. I hope he will understand after this battle. King Firefly's figure moved and disappeared. Pong, pong, pong. Block, retreat. Block again, retreat again. No, I cannot lose. Tan Xiao Xiao screamed in his heart as he retreated. He continued to block. His arms were already numb, and the huge diamond-shaped shield flashing in front of him shattered. Even his armor was dented and dented. His defense was very strong, and it was considered one of the best among the 8-star experts. However, without the help of the red embellishment domain, he became a live target. No matter how strong his defense was, it was useless. Moreover, the power of his opponent's attacks had exceeded the limits of his defense. He was barely able to block every attack. Tan Xiao Xiao knew very well that if this continued, he would definitely lose. However, he couldn't accept this. He couldn't accept losing just like this to a newcomer from the Milky Way lineage. Ah, 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 Tan Xiao Xiao roared hysterically, but other than venting his pain, it was useless. Instead, his opponent's attacks were getting stronger and stronger, so strong that he was on the verge of breaking down. Bam! The saber force, which was as powerful as 1,000 caddies, shattered his defense with a loud bang. Crack! The silver shield was completely shattered. Tan Xiaoxiao's eyes were wide open, and his body was trembling. He staggered, and his face was pale. Seeing the terrifying saber of light descending, he couldn't block it anymore. He had lost. Closing his eyes, Tan Xiaoxiao looked as if he had aged by decades. His aura was completely defeated. Bam! There was a strong fluctuation in the void above, and Firefly King's beautiful figure flashed. However, she didn't make a move because Lin Feng had stopped. He stopped as soon as he said so, without any blood-boiling battle intent or impulse. His calm face was still as calm as an ancient well, and his expression was indifferent. Oh! Firefly King's beautiful eyes flashed, and she became even more curious. This isn't his full strength? Firefly King was very clear. During a battle, if one gave it his all, it would be very difficult to end it as Lin Feng did. It was like moving at the speed of light and suddenly coming to a complete stop. Was it possible? It was possible, but very difficult. Unless his maximum speed was 100 times or 1,000 times the speed of light. Then, when moving at one time the speed of light, naturally he would stop as soon as he said so. It was the same for a battle. If one's strength was far beyond his current level, then it would be more than enough. Lin Feng wins. Firefly King's voice sounded leisurely. The surroundings were silent. The clansmen were a bit confused, but the battle process was too fast. They didn't have time to react at all. They only saw Lin Feng being attacked, and attacked again. Suddenly, there was a flash of blade light and a continuous rumbling sound. In an instant, he had turned defense into offense. Soon, Tan Xiaoxiao was suppressed by the endless blade energy and was forced to retreat. He lost just like that. So powerful. This newcomer is too powerful. Unbelievable. His strength is too amazing. Even the top 10 8-star clansmen of the Calming Heart Lake can't do that, right? Not only is he proficient in the Tao of Soul, but he's also very powerful in close combat. I'm convinced. I'm convinced too. He's really too strong. The clansmen were shocked and began to discuss. Lin Feng's strength had completely conquered them. Although they didn't think that the Milky Way clan was stronger than their ancestors, they still approved of the Milky Way clan. After all, they were all part of the Milky Way human clan. The clan was very united. Although the internal competition was fierce, it was only internal. The clansmen respected Dong Huang, deputy clan leader Shi Dingshan, and even Firefly King from the bottom of their hearts. Now, there was another promising newcomer in the clan. The clansmen were naturally happy. The most important thing was that Lin Feng was really strong. Clap, clap, clap. The clansmen couldn't help but applaud this battle. Their eyes were much clearer, and some were even filled with reverence and anticipation. This was their approval of Lin Feng and their respect for the strong. Good job, Lin Feng. We'll remember you. Work hard to become a 9-star expert, Lin Feng. The cheers continued. Lin Feng also smiled. No matter where one was, identity and status were secondary. Only strength was the real capital. At this moment, he had truly joined the Milky Way human clan and gained recognition. Chapter 1933. Lin Feng won. A newcomer won against Tan Xiaoxiao in the arena? That can't be. So powerful. Master Tan owns number 20 Tranquil Heart Pond. Even among the 8-star powerhouses, he is one of the top powerhouses. It's true. Many people witnessed it with their own eyes. The stone stirred up 1,000 ripples. Not long after Shi Dingshan posted the announcement, the people were still curious about the newcomer Lin Feng's identity. Suddenly, such a big piece of news spread, shocking the entire race. One person spread to 10, 10 to 100, and everyone knew about it. Many people were still doubtful, suspecting that this was just a rumor. After all, there were not many people who watched that day, especially compared to the population of the entire race. But very soon, this news was completely confirmed. Big news, big news. The newcomer Lin Feng issued a Tranquil Heart Pond challenge. He challenged the owner of number 20 Tranquil Heart Pond, Tan Xiao. And then, who won? Who won? You definitely didn't expect that Tan Xiao forfeited. What, forfeited? That can't be. It turns out that the previous rumors were true. Master Tan really lost to Lin Feng in the arena, so he forfeited the Tranquil Heart Pond challenge. Even if he lost in the arena, he doesn't necessarily have to forfeit, right? If the difference in strength is too big and he has no confidence at all, he might as well save his strength instead of losing again. After all, the occupied Tranquil Heart Pond has one chance to challenge the lower-ranked Tranquil Heart Pond. So, the newcomer Lin Feng's strength is not just ranked number 20 in the Tranquil Heart Pond? Definitely. Because it's his first challenge, his choice is relatively safe. It's safe to challenge number 20 directly? Oh my god, what kind of newcomer is this? Lin Feng became a hot topic. In the first place, there weren't many newcomers joining the Milky Way human tribe. Only 5 had joined in the previous Samsara. Lin Feng was already an 8-star, and his talent was unparalleled. This was unprecedented. It was obvious that the race valued him. Number 20 Tranquil Heart Pond. One amazing law sense. Lin Feng's upper body was submerged in the pond water. The rippling pond water had a peculiar energy that could sense the distant light origin C and darkness origin C through his body. Cultivating in the Tranquil Heart Pool would yield twice the results with half the effort. The effect of number 20 Tranquil Heart Lake was already close to 1% of the Tranquil Heart Lake. After all, it was the second-grade Tranquil Heart Lake, so it was naturally not bad. To Lin Feng, this kind of sensing effect was something he had never experienced before. Both the divine inscriptions of light and the divine inscriptions of darkness instantly soared. The elements of light and elements of darkness in the surroundings intertwined and were attracted by the divine patterns and demonic patterns. They were automatically absorbed into his body. However, this was of little use to Lin Feng. There was only one thing that was important to the calming heart pond. Increased comprehension. The stronger one's comprehension, the easier it would be to grasp the great Tao of origin, especially for experts with shocking bloodlines. For example, Lin Feng possessed the divine crest of light and divine crest of darkness. So his comprehension of the quintessence grand Taos of light and darkness had increased greatly by several times. His improvement was even more shocking than that of ordinary experts. This is just the Tranquil Heart Lake. The effect of the Tranquil Heart Lake is even stronger. Lin Feng was secretly shocked. No wonder the Tranquil Heart Lake was calculated in days. The effect of one day's training was probably comparable to a year's training in the Tranquil Heart Lake. A year in the Tranquil Heart Lake was equivalent to 100 years in the outside world, or even more. This was because comprehension was often something that happened in an instant. However, the great Tao of light and the great Tao of darkness cannot be comprehended at the same time. There will be a conflict. I will choose one and try to comprehend it toward the paragon level. Lin Feng knew clearly in his heart. When he truly comprehended it, he would discover that the conflict between the two energies would obviously intensify. This was mainly because the effect of the Tranquil Heart Lake had greatly increased, causing the conflict to become even more obvious. Comprehend the great Tao of light. Because the divine crest of light is at the 3rd stage, the comprehension will be faster. If I comprehend the great Tao of darkness, I will be able to raise the great Tao of darkness to the paragon level after refining the nightmare blood crystal that I obtained from the auction. I will comprehend the great Tao of light first. Lin Feng quickly made his decision. After all, he was not far from the paragon level. All 12 of his nomological great Taos were close to the paragon level. Light type and darkness type, nomological great Taos, could be used as references for each other. If one of them reached the paragon level, the transformation of the remaining 5 would be twice the result with half the effort. It would be easier. If he used the nightmare blood crystal to break through the great Tao of darkness first, it might be faster. However, the other 5 nomological Great Taoists would be slower. After all, the Great Tao of Darkness was only at the 2nd stage. He might as well raise the Great Tao of Light first. Firstly, there was a time limit for him to enter the Tranquil Heart Lake. Secondly, the Tranquil Heart Lake was just icing on the cake for the Nightmare Blood Crystal. The strong were even stronger. Once the Great Tao of Light reaches the Paragon level, even if it's just one of them, just the nomological Great Tao and the 3rd stage Divine Crest of Light will be more powerful than the previous fusion of light and darkness. With one nomological Great Tao at the Paragon level, there's a 50% chance of breaking through to 9-star. With 2 nomological Great Taoists, there's a 90% chance. This was Lin Feng's true goal. Before entering the turbulent void, he had to become a true 9-star cultivator. Only then would he have enough capital to protect himself and even deal with the Destiny clan. I'm not in a hurry to enter the Tranquil Lake. I'll enter when my perception of the Tranquil Lake reaches the bottleneck. Then the efficiency will be maximized. Lin Feng quickly entered the state of cultivation. This last period of time before the turbulent void opened was crucial. He had to do his best to strengthen himself. Donghuang Palace. In the sword matrix, Donghuang stood with his sword. His chiseled face was petrified. He closed his eyes slightly. In front of him, there were 2 figures, a man and a woman. The man was as firm as a mountain, as unshakable as a rock. The woman had a graceful figure. She was dressed in a foggy robe. It was difficult to see her appearance. They were sure Dingshan and Mystery. Once a year, they would report to the patriarch, Donghuang, about the affairs of the clan. Oh, number 20 Tranquil Lake? Donghuang raised his head slightly when he heard this. There was some surprise in his eyes. Lin Feng defeated Tan Xiaoxiao. Yes, he defeated him in the arena, Sure Dingshan said. After that, he challenged him at the Tranquil Lake. Tan Xiaoxiao forfeited. Donghuang nodded. My second brother, and I estimate that Lin Feng's strength is about number 12 to number 15 Tranquil Lake, Mystery said. As a newcomer, he has a promising future. Donghuang pondered. In that case, I will give him 100,000 contribution points in 50 days at the Tranquil Lake. Swish. Sure Dingshan and Mystery's expressions changed. Isn't this reward too much, brother? Sure Dingshan said. Our ancestors have always complained about the Milky Way. If we still favor Lin Feng, I'm afraid. Donghuang raised his hand and interrupted. It doesn't matter. They don't understand. Don't you understand? Donghuang's sword-like eyes swept over Sure Dingshan and Mystery. The 2 pursed their lips and frowned slightly. For the clan, the top experts are the pillars. With 1 more 9-star expert, the clan will be stronger. Lin Feng has the possibility of breaking through to the 9-star level. We should help him. If our ancestors have such potential, I, Donghuang, will treat them equally. What do you think, third sister? Mystery said, It's up to you, brother. Donghuang nodded and closed his eyes. Let's continue. Next. Chapter 1934. Number 20 Calming Heart Pool. Half of Lin Feng's body was submerged in the water, and a faint layer of light condensed outside his body. The divine patterns of light wrapped around his body like silk threads, gathering countless light elements. Every light element flew at high speed, showing the essence of light and containing the law of light origin. The path of light speed. Out of the 6 Taoists of light, Lin Feng had the deepest comprehension and the strongest talent in the Taoists of light and light. Therefore, he had chosen the Tao of light as his first Tao of laws to reach perfection. Almost there. Just 1 more step and I can break through. Lin Feng sighed softly. He opened his eyes slightly with a confident smile. After cultivating to near perfection in the outside world, the following path was like a fog, difficult to explore. He didn't know which direction to go or whether he was going in the right direction. However, cultivating in the calming heart pool, although he was still a little confused, the path ahead was clear, but he couldn't see the end. It wasn't until this year that he reached the wall and touched the barrier of the cage. To cross this bottleneck, he needed to have an epiphany or break through. Lin Feng believed that even if he only cultivated in the calming heart pool, he would definitely be able to break through the shackles in a few years or a few decades. However, he had a better choice. Calming heart pool. Lin Feng jumped up from the pool, and the water on his body disappeared in an instant, returning to normal. His clear eyes carried a trace of expectation as he walked out. He passed through layers of corridors and left the calming heart pool area. "Sir." A group of servants bowed respectfully. Every calming heart pool was a huge territory and mansion, so there were naturally many servants. Needless to say, the one Lin Feng occupied was number 20 calming heart pool. Lin Feng nodded slightly and passed through 2 rows of servants. At the end of the line was a kind, old man with small eyes. He was wearing the uniform of the Milky Way's human tribe. It was Butler Pang, who was in charge of handling miscellaneous affairs. "Has anyone come to find me?" Lin Feng asked casually. 1 year ago, Xiao Jishing, Hu Qi, and Qi Hong came to visit you. 11 months ago, Huang Yimo came to visit you. 10 months ago, Steward Pang took out the notes and read them out one by one. Every visitor, including their identity, information, and purpose, was recorded in detail. A powerhouse's cultivation was often calculated in years. Unless there was something important, they wouldn't want to be disturbed during their seclusion. Therefore, they needed someone to take care of some mundane matters. Those who came to visit were basically 7-star and 8-star experts. There were also a few 5-star and 6-star experts. Most of the 7-star and 8-star experts were here to get to know each other. As for the clansmen below the 7-star level, they were here to ask for guidance. That day, Lin Feng defeated Tan Xiao and became famous. The human tribe of the Milky Way respected the strong. The sound of a sewing machine, Lin Feng whispered. He had learned his identity from Hu Qi. In the previous era, a total of 5 people had joined the Milky Way human race. 2 of them had fallen over the years. The strongest of the remaining 3 was naturally the Firefly King, followed by the Shaving Sound, the owner of number 10 Tranquil Mind Pool. His strength was at the peak of the 8-star experts. The weakest was Hu Qi, who merely had 7-star strength. "I'll pay him a visit when I have time." Lin Feng didn't care about the other 8-star experts, including the owner of number 7 Tranquil Mind Pool, Qi Hong, who was the strongest 8-star expert in the Milky Way human race. However, the sound of a sewing machine belonged to the Milky Way and came from the same place as him. 7 days ago, the Dingshan King came to visit, Butler Pang said. "Huh?" Lin Feng was slightly surprised. Butler Pang said, "Nothing, sir. The Patriarch has issued a reward. The Dingshan King came to inform you that the Patriarch will give him 100,000 contribution points and 50 days at the Tranquil Mind Lake." "Oh!" Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Butler Pang smiled. "It seems that the Patriarch is very satisfied with your generosity. As far as I know, the Patriarch didn't value you so much." Lin Feng smiled and said, "I'll go out for a while." "Sir, take care." Butler Pang bowed respectfully. The servants behind him also bowed, their heads 90 degrees. Their eyes were filled with envy and reverence. Such a young and promising master would definitely become the backbone of the clan in the future. As subordinates, they naturally shared in the glory. Lin Feng went to number 2 Tranquil Mind Pool, where the Dingshan King's residence was located. With Brother Shi's status and the Patriarch's decree, it was fine if he didn't know about it when he was in seclusion. However, now that he knew, he couldn't pretend that nothing had happened. He had to go personally to show his sincerity. Moreover, he had some matters to discuss with Brother Shi. Brother Shi was fully responsible for the arrangement of the Tranquil Mind Lake. The allocation of each time period not only needed to be reported to Brother Shi, but it also needed to be registered to determine the exact time. Previously, he didn't know when the comprehension of the Tranquil Mind Lake would reach its limit. Therefore, he didn't confirm the cultivation time of the Tranquil Mind Lake. After all, once it was confirmed, it would be troublesome to change it. If he didn't change it, he would miss it. Now was the time. "Haha, you're here, often." Sure, Dingshan laughed heartily and came out to greet him in person. Although he was busy with work, he still liked and valued Lin Feng, the newcomer of the Milky Way bloodline that he personally brought back. Like Dong Wang, he was very optimistic about Lin Feng, even more so than the sound of the shaving machine. They had always thought that Lin Feng broke through to the 9-star powerhouse before the sound of the shaving machine was very likely. Brother Shi. Lin Feng smiled and saluted. Don't be so formal. Sit. Shi Dingshan made a gesture of invitation and ordered the servants to make tea. Then he sat down and smiled. Often you came to me because of the patriarch's gift? Lin Feng nodded. I was really shocked. Shi Dingshan took a sip of tea and said with a serious expression, I didn't expect my elder brother to give you such a gift. I can see that my elder brother thinks highly of you. He gave you more resources and conditions in the hope that you can progress faster and become a 9-star powerhouse as soon as possible. In 3 years, the Tranquil Heart Pool Challenge that is held every 10 years will be held again. Often, if you can take another step forward this time and enter the top 15 or even the top 10 with my elder brother's character, the reward will be even more. Shi Dingshan put down his teacup and said, I heard about your battle with Tan Xiao Xiao from my 5th sister. I know that your strength is far beyond this. Remember, the clan is different from the outside world. Outside, it's not wrong to keep a low profile. But in the clan, you need to appropriately expose your strength and potential to make the clan more convinced of you and think more highly of you. This way, you'll get more resources and training. Lin Feng nodded. I will. There was no need to put on a show in the battle arena. The Tranquil Heart Pool Challenge 3 years later was the best stage. At that time, he will be able to amaze the world. Chapter 1935. After setting the time for the Tranquil Lake, Lin Feng chatted with Brother Shi for a while and learned more about the tribe. Then, he bade farewell and left. Since he had joined the tribe, he naturally had to have a general understanding of the tribe. If he did not even know the 7-star and 8-star strong men and the tribe's rules and prohibitions, it would be a little too much. 5 days later, there will be a month's quota for the Tranquil Lake. After that, it will be 2 years later. The quota for the Tranquil Lake was arranged very closely. Because it involved many 8-star and 9-star strong men, it was not easy to allocate. Once the time was set, it was not easy to allocate. It also depended on whether the other tribe members had the time or not. Everyone was very busy. Each of them had their own cultivation plan, and the arrangement was seamless. Originally, there was no time quota after 5 days. However, it just so happened that this month belonged to Shi Dingshan, so he let it go. Lin Feng did not decline because he really needed this month's time. Now that his light speed Dao had reached a bottleneck, the effect of the Tranquil Lake had weakened a lot. Only in the Tranquil Lake could he break through faster. 1 month was not a lot, but Lin Feng believed that it was enough for him to break through the shackles. My quota for the Tranquil Lake is 30 days every 10 years, plus the 150 days that the tribe leader gave me twice. 5 days later, 30 days will be used. The remaining 150 days will be used in 2 years. I can use it all at once or keep it, Lin Feng thought. The quota for every 10 years must be used up in this 10-year cycle. However, other bestowed quotas, such as those given by the tribe leader, tribe rewards, contribution points exchange, and so on, could be accumulated. 3 years later, it would be a new 10-year period. A new Tranquil Lake challenge. A new quota for the Tranquil Lake. 3 years is enough for me to become a 9-star strongman. Lin Feng's goal was very clear. That was the number 7 Tranquil Lake. He wanted to become the first person below the 9-star strongmen in the tribe. Brother Shi was right. The higher the potential and the stronger the strength, the more the tribe would give him. There was no need to hide his strength in the tribe. It was better to show off. These 5 days, I can make a trip out. Lin Feng did not forget that day when he asked the Heavenly Tea Pavilion to buy the fruits of heaven and earth. They had agreed on a year's time. He believed that most of them had already been purchased. Before I become a 9-star expert, I'll raise my physique to the limit. At that time, I'll cross the threshold of life, and the improvement will be maximized. Lin Feng strengthened his body in this way at every stage. Hence, his current physique was much stronger than that of an ordinary 9-star expert. It was far beyond a normal human's body. Ziming City, one of the three imperial cities. It was a lofty city that was jointly managed by the Emperor's Star Tower and the Sky Tea Pavilion. It was ranked first among the three royal cities. No matter if it was martial prowess or financial resources, it was second to none, especially the three martial arts halls of the Emperor's Star Tower, which are the glorious symbols of Ziming City. Every martial artist who entered Ziming City would go to pay their respects and even yearn to be apprenticed to a master. Of course, the Heavenly Tea Pavilion was not bad either. As the headquarters, the Heavenly Tea Pavilion in the Ziming City had more treasures, resources, and experts than the Heavenly Tea Pavilions in the Extreme Dragon Sky City and the King Reincarnation City combined. Unlike the Black Dragon Auction House, which only held auctions at fixed times, the Heavenly Tea Pavilion was always open for business. As long as you had money, you could buy any treasure in the Heavenly Tea Pavilion. Of course, the Heavenly Tea Pavilion did not have some super treasures like the Black Dragon Auction House. However, it could basically satisfy all the needs of 9-star experts and below. Although the Black Dragon Auction House sold high-quality treasures, each of them could be auctioned at a sky-high price. However, in terms of wealth, there was still a gap between them and the Heavenly Tea Pavilion. Small profits, but quick turnover established the Heavenly Tea Pavilion's superior position in the Origin Awakened continent. It was a perfect combination with the Emperor Star Tower, one in the civil and one in the martial arts. At this time, in the Heavenly Tea Pavilion, the new chief steward, Qian Fulai, was wearing a red satin robe and was in high spirits. Many high-ranking officials and nobles of Ziming City had gathered around him. Even the experts of the Emperor Star Tower had come to congratulate him. Congratulations on your promotion, Chief Steward Qian. I'm late. Hey, Brother Wei, why are you still calling him Chief Steward Qian? You should call him Pavilion Master Qian. Yes. Look at my memory. I apologize to Pavilion Master Qian. Those who do not know are not guilty. I will punish myself by drinking 3 cups. I hope Pavilion Master Qian will forgive me. Those who came to visit were all 7-star and even 8-star experts. Qian Fulai maintained his smile and made friends with experts from all over to increase his network. In business, it was not a bad thing to make more friends. He was considered an elder in the Heavenly Tea Pavilion, and his strength was also 8-star. It was just that his previous identity was the Heavenly Tea Envoy, and there was a gap between him and the Pavilion Master. It was not until the 2 business deals with Lin Feng in the Extreme Dragon Sky City that he was promoted, accumulating enough strength to make a great leap. Everyone, feel free to do as you please. Qian Fulai greeted them one by one. Although he had a smile on his face, it was not very polite. With his current identity, there were very few people who could make him bow and scrape. He was now the Pavilion Master, and he was the Pavilion Master with real power, managing the headquarters of the Heavenly Tea Pavilion. Although there were many Pavilion Masters of the same rank as him, his status in the Heavenly Tea Pavilion was already extraordinary, and he was only below the Chief Pavilion Master. Suddenly, Qian Fulai, who was raising his cup to toast, was stunned. His eyes widened as he saw a familiar figure outside the Heavenly Tea Pavilion. His eyes lit up, and he was very excited. Brother Lin, I've been waiting for you to come, haha. Qian Fulai's 3 steps turned into 2 as he hurriedly went up to greet him. The wine cup in his hand had long since been tossed away. His appearance was completely different from the calm and composed manner from before. Instead, he looked like a waiter who had just met a distinguished guest. This sudden action caused all the high officials and nobles in Ziming City to be stunned. Brother Qian, it was Lin Feng who came. Last time, Qian Fulai had mentioned to him that he did not need to go to the Extreme Dragon Sky City next time. He could come directly to Ziming City. Sure enough, he found him here. Today, I seem to have come at a bad time. Lin Feng looked around. He seemed to have interrupted Qian Fulai's celebration. From what he had heard, today should be the banquet for Qian Fulai's promotion to Pavilion Master. No, how could it be? Qian Fulai said. Absolutely not. Brother Lin, you are my great benefactor. Without you, I wouldn't be where I am today. Come, Brother Lin, this way please. I've already done all the things you asked me to do. Qian Fulai was very respectful, and his expression instantly changed. He was extremely attentive. Okay. Lin Feng nodded and went to the inner hall with Qian Fulai. The surrounding high officials and nobles were all stunned, not knowing what was going on. Who is he? I don't know. Looking at Pavilion Master Qian's nervous look, he doesn't seem to be an ordinary person. He looks unfamiliar. He shouldn't be from our Ziming city, right? It doesn't matter whether he is or not. To make Pavilion Master Qian bow to him, he must be a great figure in the Origin Awakening continent. It would be great if I could get to know him. Chapter 1936. In the inner hall of the Heavenly Tea Pavilion. After entering, there were many twists and turns. Even the top VIPs of the Heavenly Tea Pavilion did not have the right to enter. However, Lin Feng was the honorary pavilion master of the Heavenly Tea Pavilion, so he was not restricted. Soon, the two of them followed Qian Fulai into the pavilion master's exclusive top-level secret room. Brother Lin, don't worry. This is my exclusive tea room. Even the chief pavilion master can't enter without my permission. Qian Fulai welcomed Lin Feng eagerly. The gratitude in his eyes came from the bottom of his heart. With his current status, he was not much worse than Lin Feng, the honorary pavilion master. It could be said that among the 8-star powerhouses of the Heavenly Tea Pavilion, Qian Fulai, who was the pavilion master in charge of the Heavenly Tea Pavilion, had reached the top in the field of business. Therefore, many 8-star powerhouses had come forward to befriend him after his promotion this time. However, Lin Feng was different. To Qian Fulai, Lin Feng was his benefactor, his talent scout. If it weren't for Lin Feng's 2 transactions, he didn't know how long it would have taken for him to advance. It might take tens of thousands of eras or the rest of his life. Therefore, Qian Fulai was extremely grateful to Lin Feng. He had given him a new lease of life. I forgot to congratulate Brother Qian. Lin Feng sat down with a smile and looked around. Although the tea room was not big, it was a symbol of the pavilion master's status. Lin Feng knew the general information about the 8 forces very well. Qian Fulai chuckled and said, Brother Lin, you're too polite. Come. You're busy, so I won't disturb you. The heaven and earth fruits here have a total of 375 billion void crystals. It's all I've gained in the past year. With that, Qian Fulai waved his hand, and all the heaven and earth fruits in his spatial ring appeared. In an instant, the room was filled with a fragrance that was suffocating. The heaven and earth fruits of various colors were gathered in the room, and the vigorous energy made one feel like they were in a paradise on earth. Lin Feng's eyes flashed, and he was quite surprised. Previously, he had bet 3 billion void crystals on Qian Fulai. He thought it would be more than enough, but he did not expect Qian Fulai to buy 375 billion heaven and earth fruits. It was almost double. It's also luck. Qian Fulai smiled and said, Half a year ago, I was promoted by the chief pavilion lord and entered Ziming city. My power increased greatly, which is why I can buy so many fruits of heaven and earth. Otherwise, I'm afraid it would be good if we could only buy half of them. Lin Feng took a look at the heaven and earth fruits and nodded. The chief steward of the Heavenly Tea Pavilion in the Supreme Dragon Sky City was different from the pavilion master of the Ziming city. However, he had unintentionally helped Qian Fulai and helped himself. There are some heaven and earth fruits here. I've consumed them before, but they're not that effective anymore. Lin Feng quickly glanced through the rows, but didn't say anything. The extra heaven and earth fruits added up to at most 1 billion void crystals. With his current financial resources, it didn't matter if he bought them all. Just treat it as buying it at a premium at the auction. Moreover, these fruits of heaven and earth could be given away or sold. In fact, their value would not depreciate by much. Brother Lin, if you don't need the fruits of heaven and earth, my Heavenly Tea Pavilion can buy them at the original price. What kind of person was Qian Fulai? He was the former chief steward of the Heavenly Tea Pavilion. He had long since become an expert in doing business. There was no need for Lin Feng to say anything. Oh, Lin Feng looked at Qian Fulai in surprise. Is it troublesome? Qian Fulai chuckled and said, If I was still the chief steward, it would indeed be troublesome, but now it's not troublesome at all. My heavenly tea pavilion is buying these supreme treasures and fruits of heaven and earth. Brother Lin, you don't have to be polite on my behalf. Okay, Lin Feng was not pretentious. After all, the total price was 375 billion void crystals. After deducting the 3 billion void crystals that he had bet with Qian Fulai, he still had to pay 375 billion void crystals. He only had about 1 billion void crystals on him now, and he still needed to sell the supreme treasures. Now that he could offset the 1 billion void crystals of heaven and earth fruits that were not very useful, he didn't have to go through so much trouble. Soon, Lin Feng finished counting. Qian Fulai was also very fast and finished the settlement in a short while, a total of 137 billion void crystals. Brother Lin, you can give this Qian another one. 37 billion void crystals. In terms of price, this Qian guarantees that all of these will be the purchase price. Even if it's one void crystal, this Qian will not profit from Brother Lin. Lin Feng smiled and immediately took out 2 billion void crystals. Take the extra as a small token of my appreciation. Brother Qian, you don't have to refuse. Lin Feng was not a stingy person. If it were not for his good relationship with Qian Fulai, even if he was an honorary pavilion master, this batch of fruits of heaven and earth would have cost him at least 200 to 300 million void crystals. If he was not an honorary pavilion master, the price would be even higher. Okay then. Qian Fulai declined for a while, but still accepted it. 63 million void crystals was not a small reward for him, but with his current position, money was not so important. Happy cooperation. Lin Feng put away the fruits of heaven and earth and nodded with a smile. Happy cooperation. Qian Fulai also chuckled and stretched out his hand. Brother Lin, if you need this Qian's help in the future, just let me know. Okay, I'll see Brother Lin out. When he came, Lin Feng entered through the main entrance and left through a special passage. Lin Feng did not want to be the center of attention. Qian Fulai's warm hospitality had already attracted everyone's attention. If he returned to the main hall, those people would definitely swarm him. At that time, it would be a little embarrassing to refuse, so it was better to avoid them now. The less trouble there was, the better. With this batch of fruits of heaven and earth, it's enough to upgrade my physique to the peak of 8-star. Lin Feng was very clear about his physique. He did not need all of them. Just half of this batch of fruits of heaven and earth would be more than enough. However, it was not too much. He would enter the 9-star level sooner or later, and by then, he would need more fruits of heaven and earth. Stepping out of the heavenly tea pavilion, Lin Feng glanced around. Purple Tea City was quite luxurious and majestic, worthy of being the head of the 3 imperial cities. However, he did not have any sense of belonging. It was far less peaceful and isolated from the world like the tranquil heart realm. 5 days is a little too rushed to go to the green palm field now. Part of the reason Lin Feng entered the Destiny Realm before was to help the Green Palm Field. Now that he had obtained enough Eyes of Destiny, it was enough to help the Green Palm Field break the curse. He had planned to return to the Green Palm Field after leaving the Extreme Dragon Sky City, but he did not expect to go directly to the Tranquil Heart Realm and join the Milky Way human tribe. He was not in a hurry. The Green Palm Field had waited for endless eras anyway, so waiting a little longer would not make a difference. The cultivation of the Tranquil Heart Lake was more important. After all, it was Brother Sure who helped to change the quota for these 30 days. I'll go to the Green Palm Field after completing the 30 days of cultivation at the Tranquil Heart Lake. Now, Lin Feng followed the crowd and quickly came to the teleportation array to another imperial city, King Reincarnation City. That was the main city of reincarnation, one of the 8 major forces. It was the best place to issue missions. Chapter 1937. The 3 Imperial Cities. Ziming City was the strongest. The Ultimate Dragon Sky City and the King Reincarnation City were similar. The only difference was which force's main city was located in. The Ultimate Dragon Sky City was led by Fatal Limit. The Tsang Dragon Auction House set up a trading network. The major clans of Big Dipper developed in a diversified way. The king of Samsara City was led by Thorn. Fatal Force and Thorn were rivals, and they were rivals. The two imperial cities were also competing secretly. In terms of trading network, the King Reincarnation City was not as good as the Ultimate Dragon Sky City and Ziming City. The former had the Tsang Dragon Auction House, while the latter had the Heavenly Tea Pavilion. However, the King Reincarnation City had its own unique characteristics, with competition, battle, and the strong as the main theme. Other than Thorn, the King Arena and Reincarnation City were among the top forces. Both of them believed in the strategy of the strong. Especially the King Arena. It was ranked 4th after the Ziwei Star Tower, Thorn, and Fatal Limit. Reincarnation City was based on the mercenary mission system. It was ranked 5th. Most of the strong were gathered there. In terms of combat power, they were above the Ultimate Dragon Sky City. They were even comparable to Ziming City. However, the imperial cities were imperial cities. The forces were always fighting secretly. It was useless no matter how strong their combat power was. A city depended on its influence, economy, and needs. Strength was secondary. For the King Reincarnation City, it was more about the atmosphere. As expected, the whole city is filled with a strong sense of competition. Even my blood is boiling. Lin Feng smiled. Compared to Ziming City and the Ultimate Dragon Sky City, the atmosphere in the King Reincarnation City was different. One was like a gentle breeze, the other was like a whirlwind. It felt like a storm was coming. If I could enter before, I might be able to improve my strength faster. Lin Feng strolled on the desolate street. Although there were many shops in the King Reincarnation City, there were not many residents. The residents of the King's Reincarnation City were usually focused on cultivation. They were rarely as carefree as the residents of Ziming City. In the King Reincarnation City, the right to live, all the benefits, and power were obtained by fighting. Therefore, no matter how strong a cultivator was, they would be vigilant even in times of peace, not daring to rest for even a moment. Right now, there's not much meaning in competing against those at the same level as me. Lin Feng was clear about his own bottleneck. In terms of combat strength, he was already able to display more than enough. The Tranquil Heart world was the most suitable for him at the moment. He wanted to comprehend the great Tao of laws, improve his life form, and become a 9-star expert as soon as possible. This was also the only way to surpass the Black Domain Master. 10,000 Will Palace. Lin Feng's gaze swept over, and he smiled. It's not hard to find. The whole King Samsara City was like 3 legs of a tripod. The 3 huge buildings not only carried the whole city, but also symbolized it. From afar, one could see a building as tall as the sky, an inverted pyramid, and an oval-shaped building with a big belly. That's it. Lin Feng's figure flashed, heading towards the oval-shaped building. That was the legendary 10,000 Wheels Palace, the base of Samsara, one of the 8 great forces. The 10,000 Wheel Palace at the top of the 33 cities was made up of 3 main parts. The bottom part was connected to the underground palace, where the bounties and missions were issued. The identities of all the experts who issued the bounties were kept secret. Not even Samsara's staff could investigate. Absolute secrecy. Every expert who issued a mission was a big customer of Samsara. In the middle of the 10,000 Wheel Palace, the oval-shaped belly was the largest area of the 10,000 Wheel Palace, carrying the most number of cultivators. Here, not only could one accept missions, one could also do many other things. There was a bar for drinking, an arena for fighting, a hall for gambling, and so on. Wine, women, beauties, everything was available here. This was a place to squander money. As long as you had money, you could obtain the luxuries of an emperor. The higher the difficulty of the 10,000 Wheel Palace's missions, the higher the bounty. Every expert who accepted a mission often walked on the edge of the blade. When they fought, they didn't care about anything, and when they rested, they indulged themselves. The 2 sides combined into one, creating the unique atmosphere of the 10,000 Wheel Palace. The upper part of the 10,000 Wheel Palace was where the Samsara experts lived, including the training grounds. It formed the shape of a wheel, with a total of 8,888 wheels. Adding the 1,112 wheels in the lower part, this was the origin of the 10,000-wheel palace. For the king of Samsara City's cultivators, the so-called 10,000-wheel palace referred to the middle part of the 10,000-wheel palace. The 9 mission halls corresponded to 1-star to 9-star adventurers. The 9-star mission hall was the highest level. Only 8-star experts and above, who had accumulated enough mission rewards, could become the highest level 9-star adventurer. And every 9-star mission was extremely expensive. The starting price was 10 million void crystals, with no upper limit. In Origin Awakened Continent, 10 million void crystals was actually quite a lot. It was equivalent to the price of a good, ordinary treasure. Most 8-star experts only had a net worth of 100 million void crystals. The poorer 8-star experts, such as those who had just entered this level, only had 20 or 30 million void crystals. So boring, I haven't had a 9-star mission in a long time. The one who spoke was a brawny man with disheveled hair. The muscles all over his body bulged like dragons, and there were dark magic patterns on the surface of his body. His eyes were blood red, and he was drinking wine while talking. How can there be so many 9-star missions? Boss, if you're really short on money, just take an 8-star mission. With the strength of US 3 brothers, completing an 8-star mission is just a matter of minutes. A jade-faced man with a tail behind him sneered. Why would we take an 8-star mission? At most, it's only 10 million void crystals. It's not even enough for us. A skinny monkey-like man hugged a beautiful elven woman in each of his arms, moving his hands up and down, flirting with them from time to time. Origin Awakened Continent was huge, and there were many 8-star and 9-star experts who were independent. Most of them did not like to be tied down. Some would join big families, some would join loose alliances, and some would form small groups, similar to mercenary teams. For example, the Bloodmight 3 brothers were quite famous in Origin Awakened Continent. The eldest, Bloodmight, was a descendant of the demon race. He had the excellent bloodline of the demon race and the wisdom of humans. In terms of strength, he was already at the peak of 8-star. The second, Jade Fox, was originally from the Silver Fox clan, one of the 18 top clans, but later betrayed the clan. The third, Peach Arrow, was from a narrow human clan. The 3 brothers had similar habits, so they became sworn brothers. Among the 9-star adventurers of Samsara, the Bloodmight 3 brothers were considered a decent mercenary force, and their mission completion rate was quite high. Just take 2 more 9-star missions. The disheveled Bloodmight's eyes were red, and his brows were tightly knitted. With my current strength, I'm still at a disadvantage in the turbulent void. Unfortunately, there is only one key. Third brother, and I can't go with you, boss. The Jade Fox said. Bloodmight said in a deep voice, you can't help much. The turbulent void is too dangerous. Without the strength of an 8-star limit, it's a waste of the key. This time, heavens will let me find the space secret realm and find the key. I believe there will be opportunities waiting for me in the turbulent void. If I can get another 100 million void crystals and buy a good defensive elite true treasure, my survival ability will be improved to another level. Oh, as he spoke, Bloodmight's eyes lit up. On the other side, the Jade Fox's eyes also lit up, and he smiled sinisterly. Just as we were talking, the 9-star mission came. Chapter 1938. Summy's newly discovered space secret realm? 100 million space crystals? The Jade Fox was slightly stunned. Third brother Peach Arrow also stopped what he was doing and stared at the screen in a daze. Then he looked at Bloodmight. Big brother, the one we found in the Source Sea is a space secret realm, right? Bloodmight stared at the screen and clenched his fists. His eyes were filled with bloody light and demonic nature. The veins on his skin were connected to dark, demonic patterns. His expression was cold and bloodthirsty. It's a space secret realm, the Jade Fox said. There are generally 2 types of space secret realms. One is a world, and the other is a secret realm that contains extreme space energy. The mission refers to the second type. The Jade Fox's silver eyes flashed as it read carefully. The mission details point out that according to the size of the space secret realm, the thinness of the space energy, and the number of powerhouses, the mission reward will be determined. Peach Arrow was stunned. What do you mean? The Jade Fox said, simply put, the bigger the space secret realm, the denser the space energy, and the fewer powerhouses who know about it, the more valuable the space secret realm is. Ha! A sinister laugh sounded. I originally planned to keep that space secret realm for myself, but I didn't expect this mission to come out. Blood Mite's eyes glowed red. Based on the size of the space secret realm we found, it can be sold for 100 million to 200 million space crystals. The Jade Fox nodded. So, the mission difficulty is 7 stars, but the reward is 9 stars. In other words, this mission could be seen in any mission hall from 7 stars to 9 stars. Swish! Without hesitation, Blood Mite pressed the mission reward. After all, most of the missions were single target. If someone else took it first, there would be no other opportunity. In the 99.55 round hall, Lin Feng sat there quietly, waiting for the mission reward results. Naturally, he was the one who issued this mission. He wanted to find a space secret realm, one with abundant energy. Lin Feng had tasted the sweetness of it in the Destiny realm. The space secret realm was abundant in space energy. Not only was his comprehension of space law clearer, but the black vortex also absorbed it faster. Even if other warriors had similar talent, they rarely had the ability to absorb it. Even if they had the ability to absorb it, their body's capacity was limited. Not to mention those warriors without talent and bloodlines. The space secret realm was only a slightly useful place for them to cultivate. However, it was different for him. As long as there was enough spatial energy, the black vortex would be able to absorb it and break through. I have 80% confidence that my dark attribute bloodline will reach the 3rd stage. Lin Feng thought to himself. However, if only the light and darkness bloodlines have reached the 3rd stage, and the black whirlpool is only at the 2nd stage, it will be difficult to unleash its full power. Therefore, it was imperative to upgrade the black swirl. Now was the best time. Because the turbulent void space is about to open, spatial secret realms of different sizes will appear in the 3 perilous lands and the 18 perilous lands, which contain spatial keys and other treasures. But for the vast majority of martial artists, after obtaining the key and treasures, this spatial secret realm is no longer of much use. Maybe it can be used as a place for cultivation, but compared to 100 million void crystals, it's not worth it. It's far from comparable. Lin Feng smiled. In fact, Yang Kai believed that even if the bounty was only 10 million space crystals, he could eventually find a space-sealed realm, but it would definitely not be as good as the bounty of 100 million space crystals. Moreover, the difficulty of the bounty mission was only 7-star. If the bounty was 10 million space crystals, then it could only be placed in the 7-star and 8-star mission halls. If the bounty was 100 million space crystals, then even 9-star adventurers would be able to see it. It was far from enough. Dang, a crisp sound rang out, and Lin Feng smiled. Generally speaking, as long as the mission was not too abnormal, the 10,000 Will Palace's bounty missions would be quickly accepted, and this time was no exception. After all, it was just selling information, and there was no risk. There would be buyers and sellers in the open. VIP number 82148. Your mission has been accepted. A pleasant female voice sounded, separated by a metal wall that even blocked the aura, and every martial artist who entered to issue a mission would be given a temporary number. We will send someone to investigate to ensure the fairness and accuracy of the mission. Please wait for 10 days. Lin Feng frowned slightly. 10 days? That's right. The mission he issued was very general. The data of each spatial secret realm was different, and the price was different. It would indeed take some investigation to determine the accurate price. 10 days is too long. I still have something to do about. I'll come back in a month. Lin Feng said. After all, he only had 5 days, and he was about to go to Tranquil Heart Lake to cultivate. Okay, VIP. The pleasant female voice sounded again. The mission contract has been concluded. This is your 9-star bounty token. After 10 days, you can check the mission information through the 9-star bounty token. If you need more detailed information, you can come back to 10,000 Will Palace. While speaking, a green light flashed at the top. Hua! A translucent crystal token fell to the ground. Lin Feng stretched out his hand and caught it. There were 9 stars on the top of the token, and there were mysterious runes on the bottom. He sent his consciousness into it, and the words were clearly imprinted in his mind. Spatial Secret Realm, investigating. Lin Feng put away the 9-star bounty token. This was an ordinary communication-type treasure, and the price was not high, at most 12 million space crystals. Samsara was willing to pay for it. After all, he had just paid the 100 million space crystals bounty. In comparison, a 9-star bounty token was very ordinary. However, these 100 million space crystals were nothing to him. The turbulent void was about to open, and he had to use all means to improve his strength. 10 days, huh? Lin Feng smiled and left the 10,000 Will Palace. Everything was ready, except for the east wind. Lin Feng knew very well that after joining the Milky Way human tribe, his path to becoming a 9-star expert was completely paved and even illuminated. The only change was whether he could break through before the turbulent void opened. He strolled around King's Samsara City and even participated in the 8-star level battle in the King's Arena to try. It didn't take long for Lin Feng to return to Tranquil Heart Lake. He continued to cultivate at number 20 Tranquil Heart Lake for 4 days until the 5th day arrived. Lin Feng, at the bank of Peace Heart Lake, a tall figure appeared, and he emitted a clear and domineering aura. His entire body was covered in bloody and hideous armor, and his eyes were like that of a peerless, ferocious beast. It was precisely the owner of the number 7 Peace Heart Lake, Chi Hong. He was the previous user of Tranquil Heart Lake. At the same time, he was also the strongest 8-star expert in the Milky Way human tribe, and he was known as the next most likely to become a 9-star expert. Hello. Lin Feng smiled and greeted Chi Hong. He didn't talk much and directly jumped into Tranquil Heart Lake. Time was limited, and it was the start of the 30-day quota, so he naturally wouldn't waste it. The strongest newcomer. Chi Hong raised his eyebrows, and his battle power condensed. You are still far from me. Chi Hong sneered and turned to leave. Chapter 1939. Lin Feng had just jumped into Tranquil Heart Lake when he felt a sense of comfort from the bottom of his heart. It was as if his body had merged with the land of origin. He felt completely relaxed and compatible, as if his entire body had become a part of heaven and earth. It was a perfect fusion. He could feel the joy in his bloodline. The light god pattern and the dark god pattern were like dormant volcanoes that could not be suppressed and were about to erupt. Lin Feng did not care about Chi Hong. With his current strength, he might not be Chi Hong's match. But so what? His goal was to become a 9-star expert before the chaotic void opened. That meant that unless Chi Hong also became a 9-star expert, he would definitely be below him in the future. Back then, he had suppressed the ancestors' bloodline and was known as the strongest newcomer. He was naturally aware of the rumors in the clan. As the strongest 8-star expert in the ancestors' bloodline, Chi Hong was thinking of ways to challenge him to prove his strength. However, he had gone into seclusion. The challenge was over. If he continued to challenge, there was no need to lose. If he won, he would not gain anything. He might even offend the 3 9-star experts of the ancestors' bloodline. Why bother? My strength will be determined when I become a 9-star expert. Lin Feng quickly immersed himself in cultivation. Every minute and second in Tranquil Heart Lake was extremely precious. Whoosh! The divine patterns of light were completely dazzling. They were as resplendent as the stars, illuminating the entire calming Heart Lake with jade green light. It was like a paradise. Lin Feng was completely immersed in it. He was in harmony with heaven and earth, suppressing the dark demonic patterns and comprehending the way of light speed. Choose one to cultivate. The effect was the best. 10,000 Will Palace, 9-star mission hall. Haha, big brother, we made a fortune. The investigation results are out. Our space secret realm was sold for 150 million void crystals. Peach Arrow's face was red, and he was overjoyed. 150 million void crystals. One might not even be able to earn that much money in an era. One had to know that an ordinary 9-star mission would only earn 120 million void crystals, and the difficulty was not low. Now, just by selling a useless space secret realm, he had earned 150 million space crystals, which was more than enough to describe it. The jade fox crossed her arms in front of her chest, and her tail was coiled around her waist. She did not smile as she looked at the blood mite with her silver eyes. The latter was the same, with blood-red eyes and messy hair. He looked like a peerless, ferocious beast. Big brother, second brother, aren't you happy? Peach Arrow was confused. Third brother, you don't understand, the jade fox said calmly. Peach Arrow was confused, unable to make sense of the situation. This mission is different from the previous 9-star missions, the jade fox said. What's the difference? Peach Arrow still didn't understand. The Jasper Fox glanced at him and said, let me ask you, what is the spatial arcane realm used for? What was he doing? Peach Arrow was stunned for a moment. If there are no treasures inside, it's usually used for cultivation or transformed into a mansion, a secret realm, or a training ground. The green jade fox's silver eyes flashed. If it's the latter, the price will be high, at least 200 million void crystals, and there will definitely be many more clauses in the details of the mission, such as prohibiting us from spreading, entering, selling, and so on. But not now. Peach Arrow seemed to understand. Second brother, you mean the jade fox smiled coldly. In other words, the buyer will most likely obtain the information about the spatial arcane realm for his own cultivation. Of course, he might also give it to his disciple or clan's descendant to cultivate. But that place is semi-public, and we are not restricted from entering. Peach Arrow's eyes lit up. I understand, so we can, with a fierce gaze, Peach Arrow made a throat-slitting gesture and chuckled, get both the girl and the money. The jade fox said, if it's that simple, Big Brother won't have to worry. Peach Arrow nodded, scratched his head, and shrugged. He was the stupidest among the three brothers, but it didn't matter. Big Brother and Second Brother would make the decision, so he wouldn't be mistreated. Second Brother, do you think we should take the risk? Blood Mite said in a low voice. Big Brother, haven't you already made your decision? The jade fox looked at Blood Mite with a faint smile. Blood Mite sighed. The person who issued the reward is most likely an 8-star expert. Since he issued the mission at this special time, it's very likely that he's at the peak of the 8-star level, or even the limit. He might only be a hair's breadth away from breaking through to 9-star. The jade fox nodded. That's why he needs the space secret realm to comprehend the space law and obtain the opportunity to break through. The Blood Mite said, a peak 8-star powerhouse, or even an ultimate powerhouse, must have a lot of wealth, at least a few 100 million void crystals, and, judging from the bounty he posted, it's possible that it could reach 1 billion, and there's a 99% chance that he has the key to the turbulent void. Because he has the key, that's why he can't wait to find the space secret realm and break through. Blood Mite's eyes flashed with red light, and his killing intent was clear. Everything else was nothing, but the key to the turbulent void alone was worth more than 1 billion. In addition to the wealth of an 8-star expert, if they could kill him, they might obtain more than 2 billion void crystals. That was 2 billion void crystals. Even 9-star expert might not have such wealth. The key is Samsara and this 8-star expert's own strength. The jade fox analyzed calmly. In my opinion, it's very likely that he's at the peak of the 8-star level. The three of us might not be able to take him down. Ask for help. Peach Arrow said casually from the side. Blood Mite and the jade fox's eyes lit up, and they looked at each other. Is it feasible? I'm friends with the lone 9-star expert, Ming Ho. 500 million void crystals. I believe it's not a problem to ask him to kill one person. Moreover, we can stay out of it. Samsara can't do anything to us without evidence. It's killing 2 birds with 1 stone. 500 million it is, I'll bet. In a calming heart lake, Lin Feng remained motionless, maintaining his cultivation state. After 20 days, he had completely integrated his previous year's comprehension in the calming heart lake. He could clearly feel every drop of the law of light speed Tao. At this moment, Lin Feng had entered a wonderful state. He seemed to have comprehended something, but he didn't know where to continue. He seemed to be moving forward, but he also seemed to have reached the end. He could vaguely see the transparent membrane in front of him, but he didn't know how to break it. The Tao of Origin, perfect. What is perfect? It doesn't seem to be complete comprehension, and it's not completely mastery either. It's perfect integration, turning one's own body into the Tao of Origin, entering the origin ocean, becoming a part of the ocean, a perfect whole, inseparable. Just now, it was perfect. Whoosh! The endless calming heart lake was illuminated by the brilliance. A resplendent light erupted from Lin Feng's body, akin to a star emitting heat and light. Boundless light element gathered around him, and his body was like a magnetic field, rapidly absorbing the surging light element. His divine runes were as resplendent as the heavens. At this moment, Lin Feng was like the incarnation of the light origin. The Tao of light speed, perfect. Chapter 1940. Qi. The divine tattoos on Lin Feng's body began to appear like blooming flowers. The divine tattoos of light on Lin Feng's body had many branches added to them, making them even more complicated. His consciousness entered the origin source C and entered a magical state. His body was like a container that kept expanding. Cells, bones, blood, skin. There was a fundamental change. His entire body was like the sun of light, shining brightly. His first nomological great Tao had reached perfection, causing Lin Feng's life rating to improve qualitatively. This was also a state that every 9-star expert had to reach. One nomological great Tao had reached perfection. No 9-star expert could break through before reaching perfection in their nomological great Tao. Wow! Lin Feng opened his eyes, filled with joy. After comprehending for 20 days, he finally took the final step and reached perfection. 7 days ago, he had already reached the final bottleneck and tried to break through the wall. However, he had not succeeded. However, everything became much simpler in Calming Heart Lake, and he quickly comprehended it. This was a very important point. The point of breaking through the wall. He had never tried it before. Even if he had a teacher to guide him, he could only understand it. All the points of breaking through the wall are similar. Continue. Lin Feng quickly suppressed the joy in his heart. There was no time to waste in Calming Heart Lake. He still had 10 days, and he would take every step he could. After all, although his life rating had improved, it was still not enough. Just a little more. Lin Feng was very clear. It was just a little difference, but it was a world of difference. Previously, he could not be sure, but now, he was 100% sure that as long as he comprehended another nomological great Tao, his life rating would definitely cross the threshold and enter the 9-star level. Actually, one nomological great Tao was enough. It's a pity that my bloodline is not perfected and the dark patterns are not strong enough. Also, my understanding of the spatial nomological laws is too rough. I only comprehended a high-level spatial true meaning, and I'm still very far from comprehending the nomological laws. With 1 to 2, he could become a 9-star expert. However, he could not do it now. Moreover, it was very difficult to control. I'll put these two aspects aside for now and comprehend the holy light Tao. Lin Feng soaked in Calming Heart Lake, and his perception of light deepened. Firstly, it was because of the improvement of his life rating. Secondly, it was because his Tao of light speed had reached perfection. This allowed his comprehension of the great Tao of light to increase. Lin Feng was very confident in his current understanding of the nomological great Tao. Grasping the wall breaking point was equivalent to grasping the secret of great perfection. No wonder so many experts find it much easier to comprehend the second and third grand Taos. Lin Feng finally understood. For example, Tan Xiao, who he had sparred with, was a perfected great Tao with 2 laws. His 6 great Tao of light aptitudes weren't bad, and he had a cultivation treasure land like the Calming Heart Lake. It was very likely that all of them would rise to the level of great perfection. Perfect them all, then fuse them. Based on this alone, even if the Dark Mage Wealth doesn't improve, I'll still be able to stand out among the powerhouses of the 9-star powerhouses. Lin Feng was very satisfied. Now that his Tao of light speed had reached perfection, his future was bright. Origin Awakened Sea, Meng Ta Island. The Origin Enlightened Sea was quite vast, and there were countless islands, so there were countless powerhouses who came to explore. Among the 3 great danger zones, the Destiny World was the most dangerous, but it was also the smallest. The Netherworld Race's Hell was moderately dangerous, and so was its area. The Origin Enlightened Sea was the largest, and the Chan Demon Race, one of the 5 major races, lived in the Origin Enlightened Sea. The Chan Demon Race wasn't belligerent, and they rarely appeared on land to fight. Of course, if they angered the Chan Demon Race, they wouldn't have an easy time. As one of the 3 great danger zones, the Origin Enlightened Sea had all kinds of natural dangers and dangers. In particular, the Origin Enlightened Sea was huge, and the life energy was vigorous. The Chan Demon Race was born in the sea, and many ferocious beasts, strange beasts, and even divine beasts were born on the islands in the sea. There were even special life forms. Special life forms that couldn't reproduce were born with powerful strength, and were born with the good fortune of heaven and earth. For example, Mingho. This was a special life form with only one eye. It was very talented and had a very high life level. There was only one of it in the entire Origin Enlightened continent, and it was ranked 68th on the Origin Enlightened list. With its strength, it wouldn't be a problem to rank in the top 50. However, as a special life form with powerful strength, Mingho's intelligence wasn't high. It was only a little higher than ferocious beasts that only knew how to kill. It couldn't even compare to the demon race, let alone humans. Therefore, despite having powerful strength, Mingho's ranking on the Origin Enlightened list wasn't high. 68th place was already at the bottom. Even so, he was still a 9-star powerhouse. Compared to 8-star powerhouses, he had a higher life level, stronger law comprehension, more terrifying physical strength, and more vigorous origin energy. His strength was much stronger. That blood mite guy still wants to deceive this king. The one-eyed Ming-Ho was half lying on the beach, half of its body soaked in the sea. Want this king to take action for 200 million void crystals? Dream on. Shaking its head, Ming-Ho had a smug expression. This king knew that they could definitely take out 300 million void crystals. Want this king to take action? How can it be so easy? Ming-Ho growled, and his fangs swallowed a huge part of the sea, and countless fishes, prawns, and crabs were swallowed into his stomach. I can earn 300 million void crystals just by moving my fingers. As he spoke, his gaze slanted to the other side of the island, where there was a space secret realm. Didn't you say 10 days? It's been a month, and I still haven't seen a ghost. Ming-Ho closed his eyes again and snorted. I'm full. This king is tired. Let me take a nap on the other side of Meng-Ta Island. What an idiot. The Jade Fox smiled coldly. Ming-Ho really lives up to his reputation. 300 million void crystals was settled. Ha, Peach Arrow laughed. This business is too cost-effective. If he kills someone, Samsara will look for him, not us. Blood Mite said. Ming-Ho doesn't care about Samsara at all, and Samsara won't be stupid enough to find trouble with him. If it's not necessary, the 8 major forces won't offend a lone 9-star powerhouse, the Jade Fox said. The Jade Fox said, Samsara itself only has 4 9-star experts. It's too late to recruit Ming-Ho. Provoke this stupid beast. He won't care about you and will do anything. Blood Mite nodded. Many special life forms have been created in the Source Ocean. Ming-Ho isn't terrifying. The most terrifying ones are Qiong Wu Jiao and Huang Tao, especially Huang Tao. I heard that Ming-Ho broke through to 9-star because of her guidance. It's none of our business anyway. The Jade Fox said indifferently, her silver eyes flashing. Although Ming-Ho is stupid, he's not scheming. As long as we kill that 8-star powerhouse, all his treasures will be ours. Under Blood Mite's messy hair, his blood-red eyes were burning. Chapter 1941. The Tranquil Heart Lake was calm. On the 20th day, there was a big fluctuation, but after that, there was no movement. In the blink of an eye, Lin Feng had been cultivating for a month. The time limit is up. Come out. Shi Dingshan's powerful voice rang in Lin Feng's ears, lingering in the air. Whoosh! Lin Feng's eyes lit up, and he let out a breath. So fast. Lin Feng shook his head helplessly. Without wasting any time, he jumped out of the Tranquil Heart Lake. It was not his time, so there was no need to take up more time. As soon as he stepped out of the Tranquil Heart Lake, a blue figure rushed in from afar, not even bothering to greet him. Lin Feng could not help but smile. For most experts, every second in the Tranquil Heart Lake was precious, including himself. I've reached the point of breaking the wall. What a pity. Lin Feng sighed. In a few days, he was confident that he could comprehend the way of light to perfection and cross the bottleneck to become a 9-star expert. Find Brother Shi and set a time. Lin Feng's figure flashed, and he went to the Tranquil Heart Lake number 2. Number 1 and number 2 calming heart pools were located beside the calming heart lake and were relatively close to each other. Therefore, Brother Shi's voice could be heard directly. Lin Feng quickly entered number 2 calming heart pool. Shi Dingshan was already waiting for him outside the door without even announcing his arrival. With a simple smile on his face, Shi Dingshan was like a giant mountain standing upright. Lin Feng was slightly moved. Even though his strength had improved, he still looked up to Shi Dingshan. The gap between their strength was huge. However, Brother Shi treated him like family. Brother Shi. Lin Feng smiled and greeted him. Looks like you've improved a lot. Shi Dingshan smiled. Just a little bit more. Lin Feng said, I'll be done in a few days. Shi Dingshan laughed heartily. Everyone who goes to the Tranquil Heart Lake is like you said. Compared to other worlds, the Tranquil Heart Lake is the foundation of our clan. Lin Feng nodded. As one of 5 great clans, they had their own strengths. After all, compared to the Destiny Tribe and the Winged Men, the human tribe of the Milky Way was not that talented. However, Lin Feng also knew that what Shi Dingshan said was different from what he said. When the other clansmen said that they needed a few days, it could be because they were close to comprehending a nomological great Tao. However, when he said that he needed a few days, this was the fundamental difference between an 8-star and a 9-star. However, there was nothing to explain. In the future, when he made a breakthrough and transformed, everything would be clear. Brother Shi, the next quota for the Tranquil Heart Lake is in 2 years, right? Lin Feng asked. Yes. Shi Dingshan nodded. 2 years later, there will be 2 periods of time. One period is 25 days, and the other period is 15 days. Both are gaps and are not complete. I suggest that you wait until the new 10-year period 3 years later to use the 150 days of reward time. The gap was usually not long. Being sandwiched between the cultivation time of 2 experts, the cultivation would often end halfway. In fact, it was not worth it. Generally speaking, the effect of continuous cultivation time was best. It's okay, Brother Shi. Help me set it. Lin Feng smiled. The shortest was 15 days, which was almost enough for him. Although it might be a little wasteful, it did not matter. The most important thing was to become a 9-star expert as soon as possible. Anyway, he had 150 days. Plus the 30 days 3 years later, he still had 180 days of quota. It was not a big deal to waste the 40 days of quota. Moreover, with these 40 days, he could definitely become a 9-star expert. No one could say for sure what would happen 3 years later. A bird in the hand was better than 10 in the bush. Getting the bird in the hand was the best. Ordinary experts might not be able to comprehend anything in 15 days, but for him, he could completely comprehend one of the nomological great Tao and reach the point of breaking through the wall or even breaking through the bottleneck. Reaching the great perfection. After setting the time and chatting with Brother Shi for a while, Lin Feng said goodbye. He returned to his residence and rested for a while. Then he opened the 9-star bounty token and sent his consciousness into it. The crystal-like bounty token flashed, and clear words appeared in front of him. Space Secret Realm, confirmed. A rare 2-level space secret realm with an inner and outer layer. The space energy is extremely abundant. It was discovered less than 10 years ago, and only 3 people know about it. Information estimated at 150 million void crystals, located in source in light and sea. Please go to the 10,000 Will Palace and pay the remaining 50 million void crystals to get the complete map. Whoosh! Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He carefully browsed the 9-star bounty token again and put it away. 150 million void crystals? Lin Feng smiled. 50 million more void crystals than he estimated was enough to prove that this 2-level space secret realm was quite excellent. You get what you pay for. Things will change if I delay. I'll pay the remaining money and go directly to cultivate. Lin Feng quickly took action. There were still 2 years before the next quota of Tranquil Heart Lake. It was enough to let the Black Vortex have a full meal and even improve. The matter of the Green Palm clan was temporarily put aside. He was not a saint. Helping the Green Palm clan was a favor, but it was not a big deal if he did not help. Time was precious now. Who knew how long it would take to lift the curse seal? Not to mention that the Green Palm clan was likely to hide some information about the curse seal. That was the curse seal set up by the Destiny clan. No one knew what would happen after it was lifted. Otherwise, would the Green Palm clan respect me as their master? Lin Feng still had some scruples in his heart. No matter what, the Green Palm clan was once one of the 5 major clans that were on par with the Void Dragon clan. The Destiny clan was a transcendent existence that had been standing at the top of Source Enlightened Continent for endless eras. He was still too weak. The more his strength improved, and the more he saw, the more Lin Feng felt the crisis. Especially, his sixth sense told him that this would be a big fluctuation, and it was hard to predict whether it would be a blessing or a curse. Improving strength is the way to go. With 9-star strength, where can I not go in Source Enlightened Continent? Even if there is danger, I have enough ability to resist it. Lin Feng's goal was very clear. After leaving the Tranquil Heart World, he went to the 10,000 Will Palace to pay 50 million void crystals. At this time, his pocket was empty, but it did not matter. For him, he had bought almost everything he needed. Passing through one teleportation formation after another, Lin Feng soon arrived at Source Enlightened Sea, one of the 3 most dangerous places. Actually, I originally came from Source Enlightened Sea. Lin Feng smiled. After going around in circles, he had been in Source Enlightened Continent for a long time and finally gained a foothold. However, if he came from Source Enlightened Sea that day, he would have died a long time ago. But now, even if he could cross it, it would be easy. Unless I encounter a 9-star special life form, there is nowhere I can't go in Source Enlightened Sea. Following the direction marked on the map, Lin Feng flew quickly. Mengta Island in this direction. It's very close. I can reach it in 3 days. Chapter 1942. If the map is correct, Mengta Island is up ahead. Huh? Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat, and he stopped. The aura of a 9-star powerhouse. With Lin Feng's current strength, other than a few 9-star experts, he could basically sense the presence of all of them. In fact, some of the 9-star experts might not even be able to sense him. What's going on? Lin Feng pondered for a moment. He had not encountered any 9-star powerhouses along the way, but he had encountered one on Mengta Island. Coincidence? It's not that coincidental. Lin Feng knew very well. How could there be so many coincidences in the world? There was usually a reason. There are 3 possibilities. First, he also discovered the space mystic realm here. Second, he's here for me. Third, it's really a coincidence. Lin Feng did not think that his identity was completely confidential. Even if Samsara kept it a secret for him, what about the seller? The seller could leak his information or tell other powerhouses about the space mystic realm. To them, it was not a big deal, but it was not good to do so. However, it was their freedom. The only ones who have a grudge against me should be the Destiny race, right? Lin Feng's expression was solemn. He's not from the Destiny race, and their souls are very strong. He's a special life form. Mingho? Lin Feng hesitated. Although special life forms were rare in the Origin Sea, it was normal for them to appear. This was because this was their home. In the Origin Sea, special life forms were like emperors. Where could they not stay? Could it really be a coincidence? Lin Feng deliberately probed and deepened his senses, but Ming Ho was still sleeping soundly. He had no intention or defense at all. If he was here for him, he should not be here. I heard that Ming Ho is not very intelligent. He shouldn't be scheming. Moreover, I have no grudge against him or the special life forms in the Origin Sea. He shouldn't be here for me. Lin Feng analyzed carefully according to the clues, but he was still on guard. Nothing could be guaranteed. Even his own speculations could be wrong. For example, what if Ming Ho was sent by the Destiny race to kill him? Although this possibility was very slim. Let's take a closer look. Lin Feng was also bold because of his skill, and he wasn't afraid at all. Before he entered Tranquil Heart Lake, he was already a top-notch 8-star expert. Now that his path of light speed had reached perfection, he was naturally at the limit of 8-star. Furthermore, it was the Tao of light that had reached perfection. If he wanted to escape, even a 9-star expert would not be able to catch up to him. Moreover, Ming Ho was very stupid. Inch by inch, inch by inch. Although Lin Feng was on guard against Ming Ho, he was not afraid. Ming Ho was ranked 68 on the Origin Awakening Proclamation. With his current strength, he could definitely fight him head-on, and there was naturally a high chance that he would lose. After all, his opponent was truly powerful. However, Lin Feng was still confident that he could preserve his life. I don't think he's here for me. Lin Feng walked around from the other side. Although the distance was not far, it was already within the attack range of the roar. However, he was still sleeping like an ox and had no intention of attacking. Lin Feng relaxed a little. Lin Feng did not know that he had overestimated Dark Roar's intelligence. Moreover, no one, including the 3 Blood Might brothers, knew his true identity because the buyer's information was completely confidential in Samsara. Even if Ming Ho was awake, he would not attack Lin Feng, unless Lin Feng entered the space secret realm. There, Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Although he could not sense the space secret realm by aura, his outstanding 6th sense could vaguely sense it. In addition, with the clear guidance of the map, Lin Feng quickly found the exact location. 3 auras? Lin Feng was slightly surprised. He did not stop, but slowed down a little. This should be the cellars. It was not difficult to estimate. Although Mingta Island was not small, it was not large either. With the strength of 8-star experts, and 3 of them at that, it would not be a problem for them to sweep the entire island. They would definitely discover the existence of the space secret realm. Moreover, the 9-star bounty showed that there were only 3 people who knew about this space secret realm. In that case, it was most likely them. Not in the secret territory, but outside the secret territory, Lin Feng took note of this. This was obviously a little strange, but it could not be generalized. After all, the space secret realm was rich in spatial energy and weak in other energies. It was better not to enter without cultivating the gist of truth of space and comprehending the law of space. What really made Lin Feng wary was the distance between the 3. The distance was just within the standard sensing range of an 8-star expert. They could sense the spatial fluctuations at the entrance of the space secret realm. In other words, they could sense the aura and identity of every martial artist who entered the space secret realm. There are still loopholes in the bounty mission. Lin Feng sighed softly in his heart. He ignored the 3 and entered the space secret realm without consulting them. So what if there was a conspiracy? When had he ever been afraid of anyone? It's fine if it's just an accident, but if it's a scheme against me? Lin Feng's eyes flashed. I'm afraid you've lifted a rock only to drop it on your own feet. Outside the space secret realm, the eyes of the lurking Blood Might suddenly lit up. Someone has entered. Blood Might suddenly stood up. His eyes were bloodshot and filled with killing intent. There was also a hint of shock. What? The Jasper Fox and Peach Arrow were both stunned. It's an 8-star expert. Blood Might's eyes widened. His hair was messy and domineering. His soul sensing ability is stronger than mine. He should have sensed me, but I didn't sense him. The Blood Mites had sensed the energy fluctuations Lin Feng had caused when he entered the spatial arcane realm. His opponent's soul power was very strong and fast. He's not easy to deal with indeed. The Jasper Fox's silver eyes flashed. Where's Ming Ho? Why didn't he chase after him? Peach Arrow looked around. I'm not sure either. Blood Might frowned. He was also puzzled. Logically speaking, Ming Ho's senses should be very strong. He should have sensed someone entering the space secret realm immediately. According to the previous agreement, Ming Ho should have chased after the 8-star expert and killed him. But he did not. He changed his mind at the last minute. The Jasper Fox was also confused. He won't raise the price, right? Peach Arrow gritted his teeth. I don't know. The Blood Might spat out a mouthful of murky air. His eyes were ferocious as he said, It must be a buyer. This is a great opportunity for us to earn more than 10 eras. I'll keep an eye here. Second brother, third brother, go find Ming Ho and see what's going on. Yes, big brother. The Jasper Fox and Peach Arrow immediately took action. Time was tight. It was not difficult to find Ming Ho. Mingta Island was only so big. Moreover, Ming Ho had a place to stay. However, when the Jasper Fox and Peach Arrow arrived, they instantly rolled their eyes. They had guessed for so long. They had completely overestimated Ming Ho. Raise the price? Change his mind at the last minute. Shrink back at the last minute? This fellow was asleep. Chapter 1943. Spatial Secret Realm. Whoosh. Lin Feng stepped into it. The black vortex was overjoyed as if it had been injected with stimulants. It spun rapidly and crazily swallowed the spatial energy. For the black vortex, entering the spatial secret realm was like a fish in water. It's even better than the one in the Destiny realm. You get what you pay for. Lin Feng smiled. He had already spread out his aura to determine if there was any danger in the spatial secret realm. There was no harm in being cautious. Based on Samsara's detection, this spatial secret realm should have 2 layers. Let's search. Lin Feng was not in a hurry to cultivate. He searched around. Generally, the inner layer of a spatial secret realm was denser than the outer layer. The absorption speed and cultivation efficiency were naturally different. The big difference could be several times, or even more than 10 times. With Lin Feng's speed, he quickly found the precise location. The spatial secret realm itself was not very big. After all, it was just a secret realm where the key was stored. It was much smaller than a real world. That was why there was so much spatial energy. The inner layer. Lin Feng entered. Hiss! The surging spatial energy made Lin Feng feel relaxed and happy. The black vortex was much more excited than before. Cultivating here, even if it was just sitting quietly and waiting for the black vortex to absorb, he would still make a lot of money. If I can cultivate here for 2 years, the black vortex will definitely reach the 4th stage. Lin Feng smiled, but he knew that this was just a dream. The spatial energy was limited, and as the spatial energy decreased, the absorption efficiency would also decrease. Moreover, the 4th stage was too far away. The spatial energy here was only enough for the black vortex to absorb for a few months. After all, it was only the inner layer. Although the spatial energy in the outer layer was thinner than here, there was more. All in all, the 150 million spatial crystals were worth it. Lin Feng continued to explore the inner layer. The treasures here had already been taken. 150 million to buy an empty spatial secret realm was already very good. If it was his, then it was his. If it was not his, then it was useless to force it. I'm afraid it won't be so smooth. Lin Feng walked around and found a good position and sat down cross-legged. This position was behind the entrance from the outer layer to the inner layer. If anyone enters, no matter who they are, kill them. There was no mercy in Lin Feng's eyes. There was no need to blabber when it was time to make a move. Even if you were merciful to others, it didn't mean that others would be merciful to you. He was not afraid of the 3 8-star experts. But towards Dark Owl, Lin Feng was still somewhat apprehensive. Although he was only ranked 68th on the Origin Awakening list, no matter how weak a tiger was, it was still a tiger. After all, he was a 9-star elite. In terms of strength, he was more than 2 levels higher than Ling Han's. If he comes in, then it means that his target is me. Lin Feng was very clear. Coincidences wouldn't happen again and again. Ming Ho was still sleeping. If he suddenly rushed into the space mystic realm and went straight to the inner layer, no one would believe him. Come, let's do it. Kill without mercy. The outer layer of the space secret realm. Whoosh! A huge figure appeared. Its entire body was covered in phosphor armor, and it had a huge and thick tail. The scales on the tail were as sharp as knives, which was different from the thick scales on the surface of the body. Different parts of the scales had different uses. Special life form, Dark Owl. It didn't need any armor or weapons. Dark Owl itself was a walking treasure. Whether it was physical defense or attack power, it was comparable to elite treasures. Compared to controlling treasures, it was naturally easier to control its own body, and it could unleash more power. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Dark Owl's breathing caused the space to tremble. Its only eye emitted a cold and sharp light as it scanned the entire mystic realm. No, Dark Owl's voice was as loud as a bell. Its golden claws rubbed the scales on its body. That brat blood might dares to deceive me. I don't think he has the guts. I almost forgot that there are 2 layers here. Dark Owl stepped on its iron hooves and walked towards the deeper layer. It was still a little sleepy and couldn't get up. There was still some anger between its brows. It had been woken up not long after falling asleep, so it was very angry when it woke up. The 2 unlucky fellows who had woken Dark Owl up had long been slapped unconscious by its tail. One step. Dark Owl's expression was indifferent, and its eyes were extremely cold. It naturally didn't take human life seriously. In the Source Awakened Sea, it had always been domineering. When it was sleepy, it would sleep, and when it was hungry, it would eat. Those humans who couldn't beat, it had already entered its stomach. It was easy to kill an 8-star human. This is the entrance. This little guy runs fast. Let's finish this quickly and go back to sleep. Dark Owl let out a strange roar, but it was unscrupulous. Although the inner layer couldn't hear the movements in the outer layer, Dark Owl didn't care even if it could hear it. Even if an 8-star human could fly, could it escape from its palm? It was the Dark Owl King of the Source Awakened Sea. I'm coming. Dark Owl's one-eyed killing intent was unparalleled as it stepped into the passage. The scene in front of his eyes suddenly changed. Before he could even regain his senses, an attack that contained a terrifying power had already descended from the sky. The astonishing aura and energy directly broke through the thick phosphor armor of the roar, and blue blood spurted out like a pillar of water. Puff. It directly sprayed out. Dark Owl! Dark Owl instantly felt a sharp pain in its heart, and it became hysterical. The one-eyed on its forehead let out a ghostly wail and howl. The space in the entire area was chaotic, and space blades were released indiscriminately. Chi! 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 The space blades flew out like broken swords, attacking indiscriminately from all directions. Pung! Lin Feng had to block them. These space blades were very special and had extremely strong cutting power. He could block one with his defense, but he couldn't block 2 or 3. It was naturally him who launched a sneak attack on Dark Owl. With one strike, he severely injured Dark Owl, a 9-star powerhouse. Boom! Lin Feng blocked the attacks of the broken space blades. His figure tilted slightly, and he felt that it was a pity. Dark Owl was indeed a special life form. Its innate ability was so terrifying. The ghostly wails and howls didn't affect him, but its innate ability, chaotic space, was terrifying, especially in this space secret realm. If they were in other places, he might be able to take the space blades and kill Dark Owl at the risk of being seriously injured. However, with the increase of space energy here, the space blades released by his innate ability, chaotic space, were not only numerous, but also several times more powerful. If he stubbornly went all out, he would probably be killed before he could kill Dark Owl. However, this didn't mean that he would give up attacking. Since Dark Owl had come in, it naturally meant that he was an enemy and not a friend. It was useless to say anything more. Attacking was the most direct. Clang! The terrifying sound of a bell rang. The power of the elite treasure, Golden Fan Bell, directly suppressed Dark Owl's ghostly wails and howls. Although Dark Owl's innate ability was strong, this sound that affected one's mind didn't have any amplification. However, The golden fan bell was used by Lin Feng's powerful soul. Lin Feng's soul was much stronger than his body. Even if it was a 9-star powerhouse, or even the Destined clan, who was recognized as the strongest in soul, Lin Feng wasn't afraid at all. Chapter 1944. Outside the spatial secret realm, the three Blood Might brothers were anxiously waiting for the result. Why isn't he out yet? Peach Arrow was restless and anxious. His armor was in tatters, and his expression was ugly. When he woke Ho-Ho up, he had been whipped by his tail. Don't worry. Blood Might's voice was low, and the veins on his body were bulging. Although he said that, his expression showed that he was very nervous. After all, this was a matter of 2 billion void crystals. That buyer is a peak 8-star, and he is rich. Maybe his life-saving ability is strong, so it is normal for Ho-Ho to spend more time. Jade Fox's handsome face had a bright red scar, which was also caused by Ho-Ho's whip. Although it was so, he and Peach Arrow did not dare to be dissatisfied. Not to mention a peak 8-star, even 3 or 4 can't compare to a 9-star expert. Blood Might's eyes were blood red. If you can't become a 9-star expert, you are destined to be mediocre. As long as we earn this money, we will definitely be able to rise in the chaotic void and break through to 9-star, becoming a true top-notch expert in Origin Awakened Continent. Well said, Big Brother. You will definitely succeed. The Jasper Fox and Peach Arrow hurriedly flattered him. Skeleton Demon, Profound Light Shuttle. At this moment, the battle in the spatial secret realm was intense. Although Lin Feng was limited by Ho-Ho's innate ability, chaotic space, his Tao of Light speed had reached perfection. His dodging ability was extremely strong, and his long-range attacking ability was not weak either. The Profound Light Shuttle's power was slightly lacking. Skeleton combined with Barbarian Blood was also a 9-star level attack. Most importantly, Ho-Ho was injured. Boom! Lin Feng's skeleton once again bombarded Ho-Ho's injured area. He was beating a drowning dog. His ghostly figure moved quickly, completely toying with Ho-Ho in the palm of his hand. Although the latter was strong, his close combat ability was the most terrifying. Now, he had not even used 10% of his terrifying strength. He had just entered and was already beaten to the point of seeing stars and bleeding profusely. His intelligence was not high, and his reaction speed was not fast either. Otherwise, he would not be ranked so low on the Origin Awakened list just because he was a special life form and his innate ability. For words, too horrible to look at. Ho-Ho's single eye was blood red, and he was completely awakened. Extreme rage. Bastard, you dare to sneak attack me? You're dead. Dark Roar roared crazily, and the surrounding space shattered. After being beaten for a long time, Dark Roar finally came back to his senses. Spatial manipulation. Ming-Ho's innate ability was very strong. He was incomparably sensitive to space, so it was easy for him to comprehend and cultivate the true meaning of space and even the law of space. It was precisely because of his outstanding talent in space that he had still stepped into the 9-star level despite his stupidity. Ming Roar's life level was actually very high. Coupled with his mastery of space, becoming a 9-star expert should have been a walk in the park. However, he was simply too stupid. Thus, it took him a long time to succeed. Merge! Amidst the thunderous roar, the shattered space and the surroundings recombined. Mysterious space runes solidified, and a shattered space reformed into a new space. However, Ming Roar controlled which piece of space it was made of. Where do you think you're going? Dark Roar's gaze became even more ferocious, but he was beaten until his head was bleeding. It was a great humiliation. Ming Roar, who had come back to his senses, displayed the strength of a 9-star expert. The shattered space was turbulent, and no matter how strong Lin Feng's control was, unless he was in close range, long-range attacks were almost ignored. Like a skeleton flying halfway, the attack path in front of him was gone, and he could not unleash any power no matter how strong he was. The law of space shattered. The law of space condensed. An ordinary 9-star expert could at most comprehend one law of space, and it was enough to become a 9-star expert. There were very few people like Dark Roar. Every law of space contained endless true meaning of space. There were high and low levels, and they contained one or more laws of space. Therefore, it was actually very difficult to comprehend a single law of space. It was much harder than comprehending a law of space. For someone as stupid and weak as Dark Roar, it was rare for him to be able to comprehend it. Fortunately, he was a special life form with heaven-defying talent in space. His talent, the Eye of the Void, was like a spatial mirror, allowing Dark Roar to slowly improve his law of space. However, Dark Roar still could not do anything to Lin Feng. Whoosh! Swoosh! Lin Feng stepped on the profound light shuttle. His movement technique left afterimages as he flew like streams of light. At that moment, the profound light shuttle had already displayed the most perfect form of an elite treasure. It could be said that it was even stronger than the skeleton. This was because the profound light shuttle was a speed of light treasure. Back then, Lin Feng was only close to the perfected level. Now that he had perfected the Tao of Light, the profound light shuttle's power was fully displayed. The profound light shuttle was a flying-type treasure. As a controlling attack, it was also an elite treasure. However, the profound light shuttle's power was far inferior to the skeleton's. It was obvious that this was not its true purpose. 9 segments flow. This was the ultimate mystery of the profound light shuttle. One could only cultivate it when their Tao of Light reached the perfected level. After cultivating it completely, one could transform into 9 segments of light. Each segment was at the speed of light, making it difficult to distinguish between real and fake. It could be said that one's movement technique could reach the most perfect level. Elite treasures were divided into 3 levels. The first level was a forced fusion. One could only unleash less than 10% of their power. The second level was a normal fusion. For example, if an elite treasure was a speed of light treasure, the expert's Tao of Light had yet to reach the perfected level and could only unleash 30% to 50% of its power. The third level was a perfect fusion. This was what Lin Feng was facing, unleashing 100% of its power. With attributes and abilities compatible, an elite treasure's power could be unleashed to 100% or even 120%. However, Lin Feng was still unable to unleash the ultimate mystery, the 9 segments flow. This was because he did not have enough time. His Tao of Light had just reached the perfected level, so he could only unleash the 3rd segment flow. If he had encountered an experienced expert, he would have been able to quickly find a flaw. However, he had encountered the stupid Dark Roar. Dark Roar could not even see through the 2nd segment flow, let alone the 3rd segment flow. He basically did not care about the enemy and only focused on unleashing his own attacks. Shatter! Merge! Dark Roar flew into a rage. He attacked from time to time and roared furiously. However, he could not even touch a single hair on Lin Feng's body. Fortunately, this was the spatial mystic realm. The spatial energy was strong enough, so Dark Roar could unleash it endlessly. Aggrieved, Dark Roar was extremely aggrieved. As soon as he entered, he was beaten up. When he came back to his senses and wanted to fight back, he could not even touch the enemy's hair. This was infuriating. He was a special life form. A dignified 9-star expert was being toyed with like a monkey in the palm of someone's hand. Dark Roar was so angry that smoke was coming out of his 7 orifices. Roar! Roar! Dark Roar's muscles bulged, his bones expanded, and his scales cracked. His huge body exuded an extremely terrifying aura. His talent, the Eye of the Void, was as red as blood. Human, I want you to die. Dark Roar was hysterical. His strongest killer move was unleashed. Chapter 1945. Pa! 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 The entire space shattered. It was completely different from the previous spatial law shattering. This time, the shattering had a strong offensive nature. Every space shattered, and the fragments seemed to have a life of their own as they crazily strangled the living beings in the space. The strongest killing move, void shattering. Ming-Ho had already thrown caution to the wind. The aura of the void eye on his head had reached its peak, and it was blood red. Normally, this move was used when one was forced into a desperate situation. Even if they won, their vitality would be greatly damaged. Ming-Ho had only used this move because he was furious and had gone mad. Otherwise, why would he be so hot-headed when dealing with a mere 8-star expert? Even if he gave up on this mission, he would not risk his life like this. One had to know that after his vitality was greatly damaged, he would be in a weakened state for a long time, and his strength would be less than 10%. At that time, he might not be stronger than a peak 8-star expert. And to recover, even 1 billion void crystals would not be enough, let alone 300 million void crystals. However, Ming-Ho had already thrown caution to the wind. He did not care so much. He only wanted to kill this despicable human in front of him. Roar! Ming-Ho had completely lost his mind and was extremely crazy. Every space shattered with extreme anger. Although Lin Feng used 3 sections flow, the light-weaving shuttle's dodging speed was very fast, and the range gradually began to shrink. The entire area was only so big. If he stepped into the shattered space, his movements would be obstructed, and he would really become a live target. In this spatial mystic realm, Ming-Ho had absolute geographical advantage and control. This is a little troublesome. Lin Feng was not afraid in the face of danger. He had some understanding of Ming-Ho's strength. So what if he was forced into a desperate situation? Ming-Ho's vitality was greatly damaged, and his aura was greatly weakened, but he was unscathed. Ming-Ho thought that he only knew how to dodge, but he did not know that his close combat ability was equally strong. The enemy was weak, and he was strong. The victor was still unknown. However, he did not want to fight Ming-Ho head-on until the last moment. This perverse and ruthless ferocious beast's special life form's close combat ability was not inferior to Wu Rai, whom he had fought before. Swish! 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 Lin Feng continued to evade. The profound light shuttle was like a small boat amidst raging waves. It looked like it could be swallowed up at any moment, but it still stood firm. The ultimate mystery was rather powerful, and the roar was indeed stupid. If Ming-Ho had a purpose and planned to use his innate skill, he would have been able to restrict Lin Feng within a certain range. However, he didn't. He completely followed Lin Feng's rhythm. It was unknown whether he was too strong and fearless, or if he was too stupid and was led by the nose. Even so, 2/3 of the entire space had already been shattered, and the damage was still increasing. Lin Feng's hiding space was getting smaller and smaller. Unless Lin Feng had also grasped the law of space's condensation, or possessed a spatial treasure with such a function, once the space completely shattered, this area would become a void of space, a chaotic ruin. This was a very frightening matter. In terms of the laws of space, Ming-Ho was several streets ahead of Lin Feng. This stupid guy really has some skills. Lin Feng was also helpless. He didn't expect Ming-Ho to be so insistent on killing him, even if he had to pay a heavy price. With the Eclipse Mystic Saber and Demon Peric Saber in hand, Lin Feng prepared for battle. If this continued, it would only be worse for him. He might as well take advantage of the small amount of space he still had to engage in close combat with Ming-Ho. With his ghostly movement technique, even if he only had 1/3 of the space, he could still bring Ming-Ho along. He could attack or retreat as he pleased. Come! Lin Feng was about to attack when he suddenly froze. In the shattered space behind him, a strange spatial fluctuation suddenly appeared. It was as if the entrance door had opened without warning. He could clearly sense the aura, and his sixth sense was extremely excited. What was that? The entrance to the inner layer? Lin Feng suddenly reacted. There's a hidden third layer in this spatial mystic realm. Lin Feng was shocked. In an instant, the Eclipse Mystic Saber erupted with resplendent light. The divine patterns of light and dark patterns were incomparably dazzling as they merged into one. The black vortex that had been accumulating for a long time erupted with all the stored spatial energy. Dual saber combination. Boom, boom, boom. Lin Feng used his strongest battle strength. The collision of light and darkness caused the entire spatial mystic realm to explode and shatter. Countless crystals shattered, and spatial turbulence danced in all directions like electric snakes. Bang! Mingho also used an incomparably powerful attack. With golden claws and a long tail covered in sharp scales, he was not afraid of Lin Feng's attack at all. His eyes were filled with disdain as he furiously counterattacked. Close combat. A little reptile dared to fight him. Die, human. Mingho was extremely confident. A rumbling sound resounded, almost destroying the entire spatial mystic realm. The entire region shook violently, and even the space shattered and collapsed. The violent tremors did not subside for a long time. Huff! Ming-Chi. Mingho panted heavily. The eye of the void on his forehead was completely lifeless and closed. At this moment, Mingho was already an arrow at the end of its flight. The execution of his innate killer move had exhausted his last bit of strength. However, his face was filled with endless pleasure. Ha ha! Mingho laughed wildly, completely ignoring his injuries. Little reptile, how dare you fight this king? Mingho laughed wantonly, overjoyed. The entire spatial mystic realm was in chaos. Spatial turbulence could be seen everywhere, but Lin Feng was nowhere to be seen. In Ming Ho's opinion, the little reptile human had died under his strongest killer move, completely crushed by the space. Not even his bones were left. Whoosh! A bright light appeared. Lin Feng's body was covered in a layer of black, ferocious demon boat. It appeared in this space. It was the outstanding True Treasure Mo Shin boat. Entering a new area, Lin Feng did not dare to let his guard down. Although he was very confident that this was the hidden third level of the spatial mystic realm, as the saying went, caution is the parent of safety. What astonishing spatial energy! Lin Feng took a light breath. The spatial energy of the second level was already very dense, far surpassing any spatial mystic realm he had been to. However, the spatial energy of this hidden third level was almost 10 times denser than that of the second level. However, in terms of area, it was naturally inferior to the second level. It must be the third level. The third level hidden in a spatial mezzanine. Lin Feng smiled with satisfaction. Because the spatial mystic realm was new, it was like a crumpled ball of plasticine that was not completely unfolded, so some parts might be hidden. For example, the entrance to the third level. However, Mingho's attack just now had completely shattered the space, revealing the hidden entrance. So he came in. When the space recovered, or the spatial turbulence became chaotic, the entrance would soon be covered again. Mingho should think that I'm dead. Lin Feng smiled, but he was not injured at all. With his strength, he could fight with Mingho. However, compared to fighting, exploring this new third level of the spatial mystic realm was much better. Oh! Lin Feng looked into the distance, and his eyes suddenly lit up.